Welcome everyone to the FATED ARPG podcast, episode number 122. Today is the day after Christmas. Well, the 27th to be precise, so the day after all the Christmas festivities. So we're back in business, we got time. I hope you guys had a wonderful time with your families. Before we go into it, this podcast can only survive with your support, so thanks to everyone who has been supporting. If you just enjoy the free content, watch as much as you can, watch it 2 times, 3 times, that's plenty, but if you want to go out of your way to support the podcast, your name is highlighted on the end screen if you buy a purchase subscription for Twitch, YouTube, or Patreon. And now without further ado, here is the co-host, BalorMage. How are you doing, Balor?
Fantastic. Only slightly tired. We did a lot of streaming for Christmas. I didn't do nothing in real life. We just did a lot of streaming.
No actual Christmasing.
Nope.
Damn. Well, in order to have some fresh conversations here, we got a visitor from, someone we haven't had on this league at all, someone who's been visiting our podcast last week, and it's the gentleman Arrow. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
I'm not up to that just yet.
You look very, very festive with that Christmas decoration there.
Yes, this is a very cozy space. I enjoy it a lot.
Nice. And of course, we're also joined by another broadcaster who was here just before the league started, and I always like to have like someone from the pre-league episodes on the league episodes, like during the league, later in the league, to see how the expectations contrast versus experiences and the reality. So welcome back, guys. Snoobay85. How are you doing?
What's up? Oh, we're going to talk about the league, right? I can't.
No, we're only talking about Christmas.
Happy holidays
and Christianity.
There you go.
God.
Nice pun.
Oh wait, was I supposed to say Merry Christmas? I'm sorry. Merry Christmas.
You can say whatever you want. I mean, it's over. People are not going to
New
suffer.
Year's the next one.
You guys already made plans for New Year's?
Yes, stream.
I'll be taking a
As of
vacation.
now, yeah. Ditto.
That's just the thing to do.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it. But we definitely will do a stream the day before because we want to go over all the fun stuff that happened this year, like a PoE 1 year review, recap. What's the word?
Both of those.
In German, there's this word. I think recap is the correct word.
Oh.
But yeah, what have you been doing over the holidays, Balor? Like, if you've only been playing, do you already have a new build? 2 new builds?
I forget what I was playing last time you did the podcast.
I think you were at the point where you had moved on from the Lightning Trapper because it was not as good as you hoped it would be in the endgame maps.
Since then, we already made an endgame Flame Blast totem build.
Yeah, I remember. That was the one that you
really
talked
well.
about.
I like that. It went really well, but not like blow anyone out of the water well. Just like quite good enough to play, definitely good enough to map with. The return of pizza sticks worked, but not like, oh my god, everyone should play this. More of a nostalgia play. Like it's now good enough to play, which is great because it wasn't for a while. Then we moved on. Now I've made MF Pathfinder. But I swear I'm only going to play it for a few more days and then I'll give it on and move on to different builds. I swear I'm not going to MF for the whole league. My chat doesn't believe me.
Well, I thought you were going to farm Ultimatum all league.
Yeah, I wanted to. And I still want to. It's still really fun. It's so shit, man.
What was the biggest reward in a single round that you ever got? And how many rounds do you think you did in total?
I don't know how many rounds I did in total, but
Thousands?
probably not thousands, but definitely maybe more than 1,000.
So
but not
best reward?
thousands. And at the end, not only do I not have enough catalysts for the people that want catalysts in a league with only 100 people playing currently, after doing thousands of maps. I had enough for about 3 rings with resistance catalysts. I've got tons of the shit catalysts. If you just stats catalysts, I got like 700 of those. Like not enough of the good ones. And I think the biggest reward I got was maybe, I don't know, like 14 chaos or something.
Thought you were going to say at least a couple divines once.
Oh, no, you're right. I did get a divine twice. I forgot about those.
One divine twice. Okay.
Fine, not stacks or anything.
Grats.
Just
Big grats.
I now stand by the same thing I was saying like 2 podcasts ago. If you're in a softcore trade league and you're fully spec'd into Ultimatum, fully spec'd in, you will make more money if you simply walk past it and do another map without even changing your atlas. How bad it is.
That is.
But is that just because Ultimatum's so bad or Affliction is so good?
It's definitely both, but even without Affliction, it's still that bad.
Like even vanilla maps.
At one point, I was going to do 100 maps farming Ultimatum because I, new league mechanic back in. We got to see 100 maps Ultimatum. What kind of profits made? But you really dampened my spirit on that test run.
Without the league mechanic, it would still be so trash. You shouldn't do it. But on top of that, they don't get any bug juice. The Ultimatum things, they don't get any bug juice because they can't drop loot. So they don't get any of the stuff. They don't get any of the buffs at all.
I suppose I could do 100 maps Ultimatum tests, and then 100 maps Al can go run past Ultimatum tests.
I do it without changing your atlas, but instead of doing it in time, instead of doing it in 100 maps,
and with a hybrid bosser mapper,
do it instead of doing 100 maps, do 50 maps, but record the amount of time it took you to do those. Maps.
Okay.
And then do mapping without changing the strategy, except just skipping Ultimatum, but for the same amount of time. Because the Ultimatums will double each map, right? They'll double the time you spend in each map. They're super long.
I'm honestly not going to do that though. But it's fun thought.
I've done tens of Ultimatums and did not enjoy it. I didn't make any money.
By the way, I love it.
It's so fun. It is so fun, and I really wanted to do it, but every single person I've talked to has said it is the worst money you can make in PoE right now.
Yeah, very bad. I hope they fix it because it's actually super fun and super difficult too. Like it's the kind of like difficult content that I wanted, that I've been asking for. Right? It's in my map. I don't have to leave. It's so difficult it makes me want to build a stronger character when I otherwise wouldn't need to. But it doesn't give any rewards, so
unless you're into like 4 mod double corrupted satin gloves. There's a lot of those.
Yeah.
Watch them do like a major whiplash on us, and it goes from being like literally the worst to literally the best. In currency.
I'm okay with it. Do it. A day.
Give it the sanctum treatment.
Give them the sanctum treatment. It'll be the greatest source of raw mirrors in the game.
I dare them, please. I'm the biggest fan. I want to play it. It's my favorite mechanic. I really enjoy it. Make it happen, please.
Yeah.
I really like it for the freeze. I don't think I like it for other things as much as other mechanics. Like just the raw gameplay, no, but like being able to have that freeze every couple of seconds and talk to chat. We say it all the time on the podcast, but that freeze is just the best feature any League mechanic has ever implemented for Path of Exile live content creators.
I'm not gonna lie, I never stop and talk. I just talk to chat while I'm doing all content, and sometimes it kills me.
Man of the people.
Yeah, you just sometimes you die. It's just how it is.
Especially this league.
Yeah, fair enough. Before we dive into the Affliction stuff and all that, we need a little bit of context. Do you want to go first, Arrow, and tell us what you're currently playing? What build are you on, and like what is the current thing that you're busy with in Path of Exile?
Yeah, I'll give you the history of the last 2 weeks or so very quickly. I started with Cobra Lash Deadeye, a build that I've league started in the past. one of my favorite skills in the game. It got a nice buff for early game, and it was going well. And then as soon as I got to tier 16s and turned the juice all the way up, I was like, oh boy, I'm going to need a significant amount more damage than I have in Leagues Past to kill these, triple empowered essences and things. So I played that for a while, completed my Atlas, went to Hexblast, cast on crit, Pathfinder. It was my first bow cast on crit build, and POB didn't have any of the gems. So I was flying completely blind. It ended up being a struggle for me to get it going. I got to like 10 million damage. It was a fun build, but then we rolled off. I did Power Siphon Locust Mines, which was phenomenal. Spent about 20 divines and took on all non-Uber content, blasted the Feared, farming super juiced 8K Wisp maps, and made a bunch of currency. And now I'm playing Frostblink, triggered by Azanaths with a bow to Boss Rush, because Boss Rush materials are unbelievably cheap, and Boss Rush loot is incredibly valuable because everyone's just magic finding and spending 45 minutes on a map. So we are heading on to Boss Rush.
Nice.
You're going to
no,
try
I
to
get it.
juice up the bosses with the empowerments and everything?
Just going to do no, we're going to skip the league mechanic. Just going to do Harbinger Rush. I have a video from last league that I did on this, and the Harby Sextants are, I think, 8 chaos right now. And it's easily going to be like 10 to 12 div per hour easily. That's what it was last league, and now invitations are 100 C, so it's probably going to be closer to 15, which is pretty wild.
What are fracture orbs at now? I knew a few days ago there were 14 divines apiece.
Yeah, last I saw, I think there were
Record.
13, but I don't know what they're at. But yeah, we're going to be doing some printing of that.
I'm checking it right now. Fracturing orbs are 3,000 chaos. It looks like.
Quick math, anyone?
I don't know what that is.
Isn't that like
Dude, 15 divines?
Yeah, 15 divines.
Yeah, this is
14
probably, it'll probably be
divines.
closer to 20 divines if that's the case. Because I think I was getting like 5 fracture shards per hour as just like one of the many ways I was making currency.
Yeah, just for context, the fracture orbs are never, basically never worth more than 8 or 9 divines in any given league. And it usually takes a while to climb up to that. At this point, I think it would normally be like 6 or 7 divines.
6-ish would be,
for the past few leagues. But I think I know why they're incredibly expensive, because I did actually farm Harbinger. But I think it has everything to do with the fact that Harbinger specific rewards are not affected by the league mechanic. They're it's one of the few things that's not impacted by the league mechanic at all. And Harbinger is favored for non-wandering path mapping, which this is a league where everybody's trying to do wandering path, whether through the Exarch altar, zero investment stuff, or extreme ends of juicing stuff. So it's just not being played.
Yep. I agree, but also the one other point that makes them more expensive is just that everybody who's doing the MF stuff has significantly more money than normal.
Yeah,
and they
that's
don't want to
say.
say
inflation factor in the economy. This economy is pretty crazy for sure.
Yeah, if they have a ton of money and they don't want to stop what they're doing, then the things they want to buy, fractured items to make fracture orbs to start making like perfect gear, just go up in price.
Yeah.
Just so
I might
happens
have
that
to
boss
look
rushing
into
is
that.
my favorite, so
I've been
very excited.
I've been telling people, there's been a lot of, all of you have probably got this. There's been a lot of in chat. Oh, I don't like MF. I hate that this is an MF league, which is like a little interesting to me because it feels like the wrong thought path. Like instead, you don't have to MF this league. You absolutely do not have to MF this league. You are not trolling if you don't MF this league. Like it's fine. But what you got to do is think about what everybody wants. And if the meta is MF, 1, you can juice the content without MF, it's still fine. But 2, there's a whole bunch of things the MFers want that they're not providing themselves. You can provide that, make tons of money.
Yeah, absolutely.
I also was making a lot of money juicing without Magic Find, just doing like legions in Jungle Valley. I was dropping a raw divine every other map.
Nice.
I mean, you can make a lot of money without Magic Find, because I'm definitely one of those people who doesn't enjoy Magic Find. Baylor and I talked about this a little bit before, but I don't enjoy the limiting factor of Magic Find on build creation. So I find myself very quickly getting bored of you become limited to a number of skills, you become limited to a number of items, and it's just doesn't excite me quite as much as it used to.
Yeah, of course I've gotten a few of those messages, but I think I'm somewhat immunized from the sort of magic, how should we say, the Magic Find hater crowd. I don't see very many of them in my Twitch chat because
I can't imagine why.
they're not going to watch what I'm doing for very long. If that's the case, I'm usually cordial about anyone that comes in, and occasionally somebody, or maybe YouTube comment randomly or something. But up front, before anyone even asked or inquired about it, I was telling people just straight up, like you said, Balor, you really don't need to have this is an incredible league, because yes, while it is exceptionally good for Magic Find, and that you could say we could declare this is a Magic Find meta league, it's actually really good on the other end of the spectrum. It's still really good, and Magic Find builds are being tested to a much greater degree than ever before. And in the case of me, like Arrow said, kind of restricted on build choices, and I'm using an off meta Magic Find build, and I'm not really able to juice to my heart's content in a T16. I'm not able to do it, so I'm forced to I have a few options there. I can either reduce the juice, I can just do the league mechanic less, deliberately leave before I overpower it too much, or I can drop the tier and suffer the loss of Awakened Sextants, Valdo puzzle maps, Forgotten Tomes, and logbooks at the proper level, a few other things, and that's what I've been doing. And that's probably one of the biggest. I put a video out on Cemetery 7 Tier 7 farming, and a lot of people still don't know this, so I should probably let the community know that doing the league mechanic in a major way at a low tier map seems to be the best option, because unlike so many other mechanics and league mechanics, this specific league mechanic does not suffer from what we should call low map tier syndrome or whatever. You still get ample rewards. You don't just get ample rewards, you seem to get identical degrees of juice in a lower tier map that you would get in a higher tier map. So really the only loss is the Eldritch Altars, Eldritch Minions, which is impactful, the Awakened Sextants, Valdo's puzzles, and that's about it. There's really not a whole lot left.
In my mind, when I'm looking at it, I'd say you lose about 30% ish. Which, if you're literally running like a white map compared to a tier 16, but you're doing full juice on it, it seems like you're getting 30% less.
That's also assuming in a vacuum that you're able to clear the tier 16 map at the exact same rate with the exact same level of efficiency that you would at tier 7, which literally nobody can. Even if they're running a 30 mirror build, nobody can do that, especially this league. So you are going to be slowed down at least a little bit. If you have an amazing build, it may mean you don't brick the map either way. So you can absolutely justify doing high tier maps for that reason. But there's no way in hell you're going to clear the map quicker and easier on a tier 16 on any build whatsoever, Magic Find or not. And so that is a factor to be taken into account. And for me, in my case, when my build was about 200 divines invested, maybe 300 divines invested, I willingly got, hypothetically, let's say, like you said, 30% less loot by dropping from T16 to T7, except that I stopped bricking maps, say 10% of the time, and I stopped having, another 10% of maps partially bricked, and I stopped having the occasional map that took me 20 minutes to complete because I had to run my ass off to try and not die and lose the 6th portal. Oh, yeah. And when you do the math on that, apparently I come out like, 50% more loot and in like 40% less time. And then suddenly the math equation just completely shifts entirely, and it just becomes a no-brainer that should be running lower tier maps. And I would suggest to almost anyone listening that's probably the best idea.
I just want to put a finer point on that. The speed at which you run a map is as important, if not more important, than what is dropping in the map. If you are running a super juice tier 16 and it takes you 25 minutes to complete it, I've already done 35 Harbinger boss rush maps, and its efficiency is king in PoE, right? Like everybody knows that how much money you're making per hour. Everybody wants to know that. But the per hour is how fast you're running your maps. And the super juice tier 16s that you have to fight each rare for 30 seconds, you're not making any money if you're investing a ton and taking forever to do your maps. So definitely try out the lower tier map farming if you're taking a long time to do your tier 16s.
Plus, another factor that I like to bring up is like something like, I guess, friction or frustration. Because when you play content that regularly kills you, where you regularly have to discard maps or like abandon maps because you can't complete them, it just puts a toll on your mental. I don't know about you guys, because you guys seem to be happy to play Path of Exile for 10 hours every day, non-stop. But for me, sometimes I play a 3 or 4 hour session and I'm burned out and I don't want to continue, right? But
yeah,
but if you make it as pleasant as possible for yourself, then you can also continue to keep up that currency per hour strat for a longer time, which ends up giving you, big surprise, more currency.
Yeah, if you're a grinder, you want to get into the zone. You can't get like into the zone where you're basically operating on autopilot. And, you know, as a content creator, what that means is actually able to communicate with your community while you're playing. That's what that actually looks like for us. But for the regular person, what that looks like is they're playing the game, they're just completely mind off somewhere else, thinking about other things. You know, maybe they're literally watching a TV show on the second monitor,
listening to this podcast,
or this podcast.
Yeah. There you go. While they're mapping, and you know, I think everybody enjoys being challenged and tested, and we all like the early league start process where we try to get away with murder by, you know, scraping by, doing harder content than what we're maybe ready for, because we can kind of overtake it with skill as opposed to gear. But then everyone, you know, rather quickly wants to reach a place where they're in the zone and they're just clearing content easily. We want to feel that amazing power spike and yeah, make the content harder, but make ourselves even stronger in spite of that. And yeah, that's the way everybody enjoys playing, I think.
Right. I'm sorry if I actually missed it. You mentioned you invested 200 divines into your build, but what build are you exactly playing, Snooey? Are you on your tornado shot or?
Oh yeah. All right. So a little backstory on that. I figured out in the past, I don't know, like half a dozen leagues, I would have probably had a better league start if I just skipped straight to Enraged Strongbox and tried to farm it with like a minimalist Toxic Rain character. Toxic Rain, like on a Quill Rain and some Magic Find pieces. I mean, we're talking like real junky gear, maybe a few divines worth of gear. 5 link at best, not 6 link.
Trash.
Yeah, and I realize now after playing the game for a while, I could totally get away with that. Like I mentioned earlier, kind of get away with murder by, you know, having less gear than what should be capable of doing. And that was kind of my thinking going into the league, and I knew that I could elevate that build further by shifting into Caustic Arrow, as I got like a Widow Hail bow and a really nice double dot multi quiver, and we could turn that into a real high efficiency farmer at tier 16s, Delirium, and even beyond. And I knew that Caustic Arrow, with a decent amount of investment, say, I don't know, 40, 50 divines plus, would be able to clean up beyond, at least outside of Delirium, very quickly, like before it even had a chance to spawn and move. And I know how good Beyond is, generally for juicing. So I got to thinking that would be a pretty nice route. And then, you know, I could shift out of that into Lightning Arrows or Tornado Shot or something, into mirrors and mirrors of investment. So that was my plan. But that got absolutely wrecked when we discovered that the League mechanic was the most impactful thing you could do. And it made monsters incredibly tanky, especially at tier 16. So that kind of ruined my plan, because my plan was highly specialized in understanding that monsters have only a certain amount of health and a certain amount of damage at this level.
You practiced exactly the amount of damage required and not a single bit more.
And it wasn't nearly enough. Now I I got creative and I worked in the Gallhelm and the Blunder Boar and forced Gloom Shrines on every map, and managed to absolutely rip apart tier 16 juice maps with wisps in Cemetery, where I could make use of a full-time Gloom Shrine and like 7 other shrine effects on average in the map, and I could make that work. And it was fun because if I died, it would make the map really hard to finish, but that's okay. That was one with Harbinger and Strongbox involved. But then after that, I discovered, hey, wait a minute. If I don't really have enough damage on this build to do this content, what about doing lower tier maps? I started asking around. There was a few rumors floating around. This is like over a week ago. And I began to test that, and it was an absolute eureka moment. I realized, my build's not capable of doing tier 16 with this league mechanic, but it is capable of doing tier 7 with this league mechanic. And I don't have to put a Gloom Shrine on. I don't have to go Shrines. I don't have to go Non-Wandering Path. I could do Beyond. I could do Delirium. I could do the full spectrum, maximizing everything. I could do all Wing Scarabs. I could feel good about it. And basically never brick a map and play in the zone, like we said.
Yeah.
And that's what I've been doing for a while. And, I've already farmed up well over a mirror now. So we'll be making that switch to Tornado Shot and get back into tier 16s, hopefully continuing what I was doing.
Wing Scarabs on a tier 7 map just makes my
feels wrong,
hurt.
right? Yeah.
I can't
it's
put my
definitely
finger
not
on
wrong.
why,
It's definitely not the wrong decision. I can promise you that.
I
You
believe
see
you.
the price of Wing Scarabs?
That's the thing. If it was the wrong decision, we'd both be happier about it.
Right.
Like, it shouldn't be the right decision.
Yeah, I used one Wing Scarab in 100 maps, one Winged Reliquary Scarab, and the rest was gilded and then polished. And I dropped 300 more Wing Scarabs in 100 maps. So I over-sustained Wing Scarabs in our last 100 map test. Triple.
Okay.
Now I got a little lucky. I got an unusual amount of Wing Scarab conversion. I had one monster drop 93 Wing Scarabs in a tier 7 map. Indeed, that's probably the biggest highlight so far of my league. But the point remains, everybody's wanting to use Wing Scarabs, but they're dropping so much that the supply is actually outweighing the demand. So there's huge supply and there's huge supply and big demand right now, and there's actually more supply than demand because the conversion loot's off the chain with the purple wisp juice, purple combined with yellow. People strike gold with those conversions. I mean, it is.
I think the demand being low is simply the fact that people aren't used to buying Winged Scarabs. The vast majority of players don't use Winged Scarabs, and I think that might change if they are reasonably priced. We might get more people.
I barely even check when I'm in trade leagues.
Same,
because I'm solo, and even solo MF most of the time isn't using Winged Scarabs. I've had times when I do, but like most of the time, you're not using Winged Scarabs. I don't even usually look at the prices.
Yeah, the only time I look at the prices is when I have a bunch and I need to liquidate them. It's like, because, every Winged Scarabs is usually around like 70, 75 chaos. But you're saying they're significantly cheaper than they are usually right now?
Yeah, they're like, they cost different depending on which one, but you can turn them over with the Harvest Juice anyway. So it's effectively, they're all essentially about the same price.
No, but it's like Ambush, Abyss, Divination, and Reliquary are above 50C. And then there's a huge gap, and like Cartography, Harbinger, Bestiary are all less than 35C, which is insanely low compared to previous leagues.
Well, yeah, what I end up doing is I go on the bulk trade site, I plug a Divine Orb. I'm gonna buy something with Divine Orbs, and then I type winged in the filter, and I literally just select every wing that I can. You can't select them all; it'll say too many things selected, but almost every wing scarab, and I'll type bulk, minimum 20 or something, and a lot of times these are bots that are flipping scarabs or whatever, but they will be 3-to-1, 4-to-1 right now on the price of the cheaper ones, and I'll just buy like 100 or 200 at once, and then I'll buy 5 divines worth of red juice, harvest juice. I'll just turn them all over at once and turn them over into the 4 that I want to run. And I've done calculations back. I don't double check every time, but pretty sure statistically it's going to favor me doing that with the limited amount of time it takes to do it. And that's how I kind of sustain mine. That's where I go to buy them. And yeah, most leagues, it's not really, for most leagues, most players, it's never really worth using Wing Scarabs for a solo farm. I do think in most leagues it becomes worth it if you are maximizing the map juicing and magic finding, and you actually have like a real strong magic find character to the hilt, like almost 100% quant, 300% rarity on your character kind of thing. And quite often it is actually worth it then. But no, this league, it's totally worth it. I mean, I'm pretty sure that even if I had 0 magic find, it would be worth putting a Reliquary Scarab on the map, because it's just absolutely nuts how much stuff. And it's something I want to test. I actually want to test 2 strategies back to back. One with my magic find character. One, I'm going to take all that gear off, and I do want to see the difference on there. A lot of people are curious what's going to happen, but that kind of test isn't going to come out in the real near future. I got so many other things. Now, this league's a blast, so there's a lot of different content I want to make this league. It's definitely a league for me, so I'm grateful for that.
Nice.
Yeah, it seems like there's plenty of things to do. I haven't played that much because this Christmas I really needed to socialize, but I definitely want to still make a speed map runner and try some of those low map currency farm strats. What would you suggest, like, for anyone? Because we talked about this before, right? And I get you guys have already driven the point home that you don't need to be a high-end player, but specifically, we had a comment under the last podcast that I see with a similar sentiment, like all over the place, somewhere on Reddit, somewhere on Twitter, people saying that Divine Explosion and such is only for high-end players. Most players get nothing out of Affliction except insanely tanky and rippy monsters.
I got some screenshots from some like non-MF, more casual players from my chat in low red maps with like 18 div around him in just like an Al can go while progressing.
Yeah, I mean, that can always happen.
So,
that's insane. 18?
18. Not 80. 18.
Yeah, no,
it was just
18 still pretty much.
Oh, that's it?
Still a number that's
red.
big enough that you look at the screen and you're like, I'm not sure how many that is. You can't instantly, like, tell.
Yeah.
I think the Divine Explosions are going to be significantly more common if you're doing high juice, but that doesn't mean the league mechanic isn't as profitable. You can still make a ton of money with smaller explosions more often. And just because you're not doing the 6-man group play 80 Divine Empyrean strategy doesn't mean that you can't make a ton of currency when a mob drops, 15 chaos and an exalt and a divine. That's still very good, and it probably took you 10 seconds to kill it instead of the uber juice stuff. So there's so much money to be made for players who aren't doing top tier magic finding that. I think honestly it's on us as content creators to give strategies, to give ways to make currency and kind of break that perspective.
Yeah, I'll make a comment on that. So I understand where that sentiment comes from, and a lot of what I said already kind of addresses that a little bit with moving down the tier. But to such a person who is farming tier 16, struggling with league mechanic, first of all, obviously it's something you need to practice at, looking up YouTube videos, how to do it good. I know Tuna came out with a video a while back, kind of detailing some of the things to think about when you're in the Wisp realm to try to maximize that. That is absolutely content worthy of seeking out for people who are struggling on it. If you're only getting 1,000 or 2,000 Wisp power in total, you're not doing it right. You can absolutely get more than that on average. I would say shoot for 4,000 plus, 4, 5, 6,000 on average, and then you're doing pretty good. And that may not be the mark either. I mean, that's kind of where I'm at. Where I'm at right now after doing a lot of practice with it. So practicing the league mechanic, getting good at it, understanding how it all works, to get a decent amount of Wisp juice. And because the reason is because that is truly more impactful than anything you do with Scarabs, anything you do with Sextants, anything you do with your Atlas. That really is the bigger factor than anything. So that is kind of paramount to do that. And it's a new league mechanic, new things to explore. So it should be fun for most people to get good at that. And then after that, I would.
Sorry if I may interject. Is it very complicated? Yeah. Like, it's a long Tuna video, but is there like a way to just paraphrase the 3 more important takeaways or something like that?
Yeah, there's a lot of idiosyncrasies in it. You don't have to dive too deep into the nuance of it, but you're trying to find events and you're trying to follow trails and you're trying not to backtrack. You're trying not to just blow through the what do you call it? The darkness without chasing anything. It is not time-based. It is darkness-based. So like however much you push away, So you can literally AFK for an hour, and it's not going to mean anything in there. I believe so, anyway.
That's something I've used a lot, by the way. I'll just stop
Yeah,
downstairs, shoot around me, make sure nothing's there, and then Alt tab to like path a building or like look at somebody, some link from chat, or like do so. I'm just in the middle of my map downstairs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I'll just finish the point real quick. So imagine you're somebody who's getting a 1,000 or 2,000 juice, then you start practicing, you get pretty good at it, you get 3, 4, 5,000 wisp power every time you're doing T16. Suddenly the map's a little too hard for you to do. Your characters, a few divines invested, the juice is a little too much, and you're struggling with it. What I would say is I would suggest try doing something like Cemetery at its baseline tier, like tier 4 Cemetery. Continue doing the Wisp Realm as best as you can. Throw on a Gold Worm, 1 Ventor's Gamble, and 1 Gold Flask. Replace 1 flask, replace 1 ring, replace your boots. If you could manage to do those 3 things, you are straight up magic finding at that point. Like, you actually have enough quant and rarity on your gear that you're going to see meaningful differences there. Remember, this is all diminished returns on those stats, so that you get way more out of it with a very limited amount of investment in that. And I know some people are going to say, but my build, I can't change my boots out, but I can't change one of my rings out. There's probably something you can change out, at least one little thing. Maybe a Divination Display Flask, I don't know. But yeah, take it down to tier 4. Throw a couple of things in there. Polished, Gilded Scarabs, whatever. Get a Reliquary Scarab in there. Whatever strat. I mean, strat's not super important. If you do the League mechanic right, put a couple pieces of Magifying gear on, and do really any strat at all where you're not breaking the map, you're going to see some magic. You're going to see some magic this league, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I think we could turn even the most vehement Magic Find haters into Magic Find lovers this league, potentially. If they were just go little bit out of their way to strategize in a way that I'm talking about here. So yeah,
tier 4 maps, really. Like,
tier 4.
In my brain, I'd want to do at least tier 8, so that's like I level 75, so I can drop like the good bells.
So in tier 4,
a lot of people would think that
you would give up the raw Mageblood, raw Headhunter drop, but you would still get Brother's Gifts and Brother's Stash if it's a tier 4 Cemetery. You still get those, and you still get virtually everything else. You start there. If it's fine, it's easy. Go ahead, bump it up to tier 7. Bump it up to tier 11.
Realistically, if you're doing the tier 7 farm right now, if you could do the tier 16 farm just as quick, if you could, it would be worth losing. You'd lose like 10% chance for the Spire. You gain a bunch of other stuff. It would be worth it. There's no reason not to go up tiers. It'll be slightly better every time. It's just not better by nearly enough to be worth slowing you down that much. Like, your character would have to be able to go zoom straight through it at the same speed, and then it would be worth going up. If it slows you down by 10%, you're probably maybe even, but now you're dying, and now it's annoying, and now you've got to pay more attention, and it just became harder, but you didn't make any more money. If it slows you down by more than that, you're losing. You might as well go down tiers. Like, this is just how it is. Which also is my least favorite Magic Find position, by the way. I actually personally dislike it a lot. When going down to lower tiers is the correct thing to do.
What was your take on Scourge League when the meta was tier 3 tower, then it was tier 7, then it was tier 10, I think.
I never did any of it. I was in tier 16s the whole time. I'm doing the same thing now. I'm in full MF gear. Well, not full MF gear. I'm in half MF gear, because if I was in full MF gear, I wouldn't be able to do it. and I'm in tier 16s. Because I just like it better, but I'm not telling people to go up there with me. That's just because I want to be in tier 16s, and I'm just willing to make less.
I agree with your sentiment there. I do agree with your sentiment. Maybe I'm more willing to drop down if I see the advantage is there. But I've always said literally my favorite core mechanic that's ever been introduced since Ultimatum was the Eldritch Altar system. And what that did is that basically forced all Magic Finders who would rightly use low tier maps to farm, whether it was Nemesis 3 farming before or after that, they had to take a hard look in the mirror and say, whoa, I'm giving up a lot by farming these low tier maps. Maybe I need to actually, aspire, take this opportunity to try and do aspirational Magic Finding content by magic finding in red maps and have to push it up a notch and do that to get more out of the maps. And that was the right move. Not this league, maybe, but generally that is the right move. So that, in my opinion, is an example of a great league mechanic, core mechanic that's introduced in the game that creates aspiration, doesn't directly nerf what people are already doing, but creates new aspirational content for those people so they could work up to that and get way greater rewards by hitting a certain benchmark. It's not a linear progression point, it's actually like a benchmark progression point. We can actually see a goal in mind and you can shoot for it and succeed at it. And that is why my favorite core mechanic is the Eldritch Altar system. Yeah,
I find it kind of intriguing that, like, Balor, you specifically just said you don't want to go down, but like, building a magic find character in the first place is already compromising like the build strength for just consistency of drops or like quantity of drops overall, right? And so isn't it kind of doing the same when you're going down a couple of tiers, when you're like sacrificing?
It's kind of doing the opposite though.
You're sacrificing the maximum drops that you could get for getting more consistently and like faster clear, right?
Right. So it's not about the drops. I magic find a lot. I do a lot of degenerate magic find shit as well. Probably not as much as Snoo, but still quite a lot. But for me, it's not the magic find first. It's the hard content first. It's not the profit first. It's the fun first. I do the magic find because it's fun, not because it's profitable. It happens to be that the thing I enjoy doing is also very profitable. That's great. But I don't want to unjuiced things, at least when I'm in Trade League. When I'm in Trade League, I want to be doing 4 gilded Scarabs and preferably 60, 80, or 100% Delirious. And I want it to be in tier 16s. And I want to put the altars on it. And I want to make it as difficult as I can. And then the challenge is to build my character with as much quantity as I can possibly fit into it while still being able to do the most difficult content, which is usually what drives me to keep playing it and make upgrades, because otherwise if I wasn't doing the most difficult content, I wouldn't need a character that strong. Or if I wasn't doing magic find, then I can normally build a character that can do all content very cheap, and then I'm bored because the content wasn't hard enough.
Sorry, I'm curious. Someone asked, to what extent do you want that to take place and you be able to kind of mentally zone out, do it? So how easy or how difficult do you really want it? Do you want it to be so hard that you have to like laser focus on the map in order to do it? Or do you want
would like it if I could juice my maps to the point where over the course of the entire league, I still wouldn't be able to make my magic find character strong enough to do them. I would like it if I could put so much juice in my map that I have to start pulling quantum rarity back out of my build to put power back in. That's how hard I want them to be. It doesn't get that hard right now, even now, but I would like that to be the case.
Well, it seems kind of impossible, seeing that you said that your process is to start at your very juicy character and then see how much you can replace of the juice with magic find gear in order to like still be able to do the top end content. So if you started with that approach and the top end content was just harder, then you'd just be able to fit less magic find into it, but you'd still be able to do the hardest content.
Well, no, because I mean,
I'm curious. I'm curious where Arrow sits on that that same question. To what extent do you want it to be easy versus challenging to the point where you have to go laser focused for maximum rewards?
I approach the game a little bit different than Balor. The thing that drives me these days to play PoE is creating new ways to play the game, whether that's creating a new currency making strategy like that Harbinger boss rush thing. I got so much fun out of that, and that requires nothing. You can do that on any character. As long as you can clear one Harbinger and kill a tier 16 map boss, you can do that strategy and make a bunch of money, and that's fun. And then making a character that maybe isn't the most powerful, but can do all of the content that I wanted to do, whether it's a build that's designed to farm Legion and it's good at Legions, or a build that's designed to kill a boss, you kill bosses. I like creating targeted builds towards targeted content. So there's not that like generic power fantasy of getting as much power as I can to do the most difficult content. Because sometimes I do like to do, Deli Mirror, Full Juice, Gilded Scarab, whatever farming, but I don't like to do that all the time. I tend to burn out. So, and I also play a new character once every 4 or 5 days throughout the league. I've played 20 plus builds the last few leagues. So creation and new things is what's fun to me. Like I killed Exarch on Void Sphere last league. That was fun.
Void Sphere.
Before they made a real Void Sphere gem, which now exists. So I approach the game very differently now. I still want to make a lot of currency. I still want to do difficult content, but I tend to like create new goals for myself and try to take those down with something new.
How do you actually feel about like leveling new characters? You enjoy like the little mini race of it, the meta of that, or? I
am not a racer. I don't enjoy the pressure of trying to go fast for the first. I have strong feelings about this. I don't enjoy the pressure of trying to get to maps in I don't know, 2.5 versus 3.5 hours when you're going to play that character for 300 hours. It's to me, unless you're actually in a race environment, it's very silly to put that pressure on yourself and treat it as if you're racing against someone when you're going to then sit in your hideout after you're done getting to maps for 5 hours and craft gear. And the reality is it's not that important in the grand scheme of your character, how quickly you get through the story. So leveling to me is just something. Sometimes I speed level. I'll do Hollow Palm. Sometimes I'll one of my mods likes to run me through as fast as possible. He'll do like drop portals and we'll see if we can get under 2 hours. That's fun. Sometimes I level with whatever skill I'm using and just see if I can do it. So I like to just change it up, and turbo leveling is not something that's super important to me.
Off meta is something that's important to you. Then
it's not just that it's off meta. It's that something that's it's not solved. If something is solved, like I'm not going to go back and play Poison Seismic because it's solved, not because it's whether or not it's meta. I like to have a challenge because I've been playing this game for so long. I've been playing so many different things for so long that it actually is starting to become difficult for me to find new challenges, which is why I make movement skill builds every single league. It's how I ended up discovering Hydrosphere a while back.
Yeah,
because I needed something new.
This league, there's like Christmas Day for you.
I'm overwhelmed.
So many new things.
You said this league is for you. I was like, I feel the exact same way. There are so many gems that I have on a list to try. Unfortunately, some of the ones I was really excited about have already kind of blown up and been popularized by some of the biggest creators. But like at the end of last league, I wanted to play Penance Brand. I was really excited. I was like, I'll just play it early next league. Well, it seems that Penance Brand has been
started it.
Yeah, right. But I'm still gonna play it. I have an idea for a way to scale the damage that I'm pretty excited about. But yeah, this league is completely overwhelming to the point where I am paralyzed by not knowing what to do next. And I often sit in POB and I half do an idea. Yeah. And I'm like, somebody will say something in chat about this other skill gem. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. I wanted to do that too. And then I'll do an hour of POBing for that. So I have 40 ideas that have 10% effort. And I really need to just start like sticking to
start memory leaking from too many POBs open at once.
Yeah.
Right. That actually sounds great.
Okay.
I want to make so many builds. I'm stuck MFing. Somebody make me stop MFing.
You can at any time you can stop. The first step is admitting you have a problem, and then.
But this is how bad the problem is. I'm in a private league. I'm not in trade.
Oh man!
So that
the money
it's
doesn't
a you
mean
problem.
Anything. It's
not this is pure grade.
But it's more needed.
This league.
It's not even just the private league.
It's not even dopamine anymore. It's methamphetamine now.
It's not even just a private league. It's a private league where all things are shared. I didn't find a divine. We found a divine. There's like 100 and something of us, and all of it is shared.
Yeah, but like in a trade league, there's like too much of everything, right? Like everything in excess. But for you in a private league, especially when it's all shared, there's never enough divines, never enough chaos orbs. Like, you can all put them to good use. So actually, MFing in your private league is more valuable than it is in
That's
trade.
not helping me. Stop.
No, don't stop. What are you doing? This is not helpful.
That's not helping me. Stop.
I'm not saying you have to MF. I'm just saying it's good that someone MFs in the private league.
We've got everyone's MFing in the private league.
Yeah, see, then it's maybe not that important that you do
We're
it.
running out of. We don't even have good venters left or anything.
Yeah, time to MF for more Venter drops.
Well,
Also, just
Oh,
another
man.
side note on the Magic Find thing. I also don't think that I have a lot to add to Magic Find, because the goal of it is always to make the most amount of currency that you can, or more currency. So if Snoo is playing Tornado Shot Magic Find, and then I'm like, hey, come check out my Vortex Cast on Crit Magic Find build that makes half of the money, why would I ever encourage someone to play my less efficient version? When people say I do Magic Find, I send them to the Magic Finders and I say, they got great stuff. You're going to want to do that. Don't play my build and add Magic Find to it, because it needs every item that it has to make it work. And I don't feel like I have as much to add to.
Maybe it makes only half the amount of currency per hour, but if you can get into it at like a fraction of the cost, if it 10% investment to get started, then that would still be useful for people.
Apparently,
I get what you're saying.
We've seen a couple builds out of nowhere show up this league. The Chieftain Fulcrum thing, and then I know Kobe's working on Lightning Strike that looks extraordinarily good. These are kind of out of left field. I did Lightning Strike MF last league, ironically, and it wasn't, it was one of those things. Hey, let's just cut your efficiency in half and do it. But it did excel at ghosting, because it couldn't kill the ghost very quickly. So there's that. The silver lining there. But yeah, I do think there is something there. But you're right, Arrow. It's a bit restricted, and it certainly helps to really know the magic finding metas inside and out.
Which I used to, but I don't
try to
anymore,
tackle that on.
Just
yeah.
The one
if
thing
nothing
about
else,
that is,
sorry, go ahead.
For me, it's always like, people say that like magic finding is just about making the most amount of money, but I can't drive home how much I don't actually prioritize making the most amount of money at all, and I never have. The magic find for me is because I already knew how to make too much money, and so I don't enjoy bossing. I just don't enjoy bossing at all. I want to map. But since I already have played way too much and can make too much money, it's so easy to make a mapping build, any mapping build, clear anything super, super well if you just put enough money in it. Mm-hmm. And Magic Find is the way to make my character weaker, and therefore the same thing as making my content harder, but without just taking a piece of gear off or just making my character more shit. Because yeah, sure, I can make a shitter character, but then they're just like, why haven't you upgraded that? Why is this so bad? Right? It doesn't
sounds like
that doesn't
chat.
feel the same. Whereas I can put a bunch of Magic Find in.
You're stumbling into the age-old debate about, where did Magic Find come from? What was its purpose at conception? And yeah, I mean, I think most people can agree that it's an endeavor to weaken yourself partially in order to get more drops, and to try and find a balance in terms of efficiency of doing that. Of course, goes all the way back to the Diablo games, or maybe even further back than that. I don't know, but that's when I started exploring Magic Find as a concept many years ago. It made perfect sense to me. I never had anything against it. I thought it was, honestly, I thought it was kind of a brilliant concept. I do understand people's issues with it being restrictive on gearing. So you can imagine a world where maybe instead of certain key unique pieces of gear are the best gear for magic finding, rather than that, you would have a wide variety of different modifiers that could roll on rare pieces that would give you a little bit of quantity here, a little bit of rarity there. And would you sacrifice tier 1 chaos res for 3% quant or something like that. You just have a bunch of little micro decisions like that on a wide variety of different gear. That would probably be a lot more interesting. But we are stuck with, things like gold worms being the de facto best boots for magic finding. I think, but I do think in principle, conceptually, I really do like the concept of magic finding.
I think I'm going to say something about magic find I've never said before that I never thought I would say. It's
a safe space.
Here it comes.
I think I could do with. I think not in a vacuum. It couldn't just happen now, but I think I could do without magic find being a thing at all.
Under which conditions?
Also, under the condition that I had the ability to still scale my content up to the point where I'm struggling to do it.
Right.
Because that's the point. That's the reason that I do it. It's not for profit. It's so that I'm scaling in a good, healthy way that does make profit, but that I'm making stuff harder.
Yeah, you did drive that point home.
And so if there was just a way to keep scaling and keep scaling and keep scaling and also be rewarded for it.
I have the solution, Valor. What you need to do is what I do, which is start
Valdo's
playing
puzzle
things
boxes
that are worse. Start playing skills that are objectively worse than the ones you're playing. And that is the new difficulty vector of PoE that you are about to embark on. Instead of Magic Find, you're going to pick skills that are numerically bad. You're going to play, I don't know, Viper Strike. Maybe Viper Strike's good this league. I don't know. But and try to make that do all the content that you want.
That just sounds like making bad builds.
No, it's making good builds out of bad skills. You can make the best build possible for a bad skill, and it can be a good build.
And then you can take the skill out and replace it with another one that scales the same way, and all of a sudden deal 10 times the damage.
You could, but you could also take your Magic Find out and deal 10 times the damage. We have the exact same perspective on PoE, on the way that we want to play PoE, but my solution is to create new builds, and yours is to create a more challenging version of the existing build by adding Magic Find. I think it's the exact same perspective.
Kind of making good builds out of bad skills is like content creation Magic Find, right? Because you lower the value of your content of your build for the entertainment value of your content.
Content creation Magic Finder. I think that's going to be my stream title today.
Yeah, you're the only one missing a headline on your name, man.
I didn't know what to say.
True.
It needs to be quirky enough, obviously. Hey, there was a viewer that you have, Catmaster. They made an interesting comment here. They wanted us to bring up something I think we ought to bring up. That's loot filters, especially this league. I think the topic of loot filters deserves its own conversation. Maybe this league. It's always something people need to be aware of, what the status of their loot filter and how it impacts how they play the game. Their efficiency level.
Would you name
this league in particular is absolutely
that I can highlight it?
Somebody named Frederick.
Oh, Frederick. Yeah, I got it.
Frederick,
oh, yeah. Here. Thanks.
Frederick, what was his last name?
There we go.
I didn't.
No, I'm fine with talking about loot filters. I wanted to complain about Balor's loot filter still showing me veiled items in the after 2 Voidstones filter.
Yeah.
Have you got all of your unveils? Because I don't.
Well, now I do, thanks to you.
Yeah, do you guys want to start on this topic at all? I mean, I got some things I'll say on it, but I do think this league especially, it's something worthy of discussion.
I'll start because it's going to be brief. I hate loot filters. I wish that someone would make them for me. I use NeverSync default for the most part. I make small modifications to it. But what I will say is that not having a good loot filter has slowed me down so much this league. And the first thing I'm going to do on stream today is upgrade my loot filter.
Arrow.
I created one for you, Arrow.
Fucking his is too strict if you're not magic finding, I promise. His filters are better than mine for magic find, actually. I quite often open them up.
I got different levels, man. I got at least 2 different levels.
No, I'll side with Arrow here because like I'm super lazy. I don't like making my own loot filter. I mean, I do like making them, but like I don't like to sit there for hours and min-max them and prepare them for other people. When I was still playing HCSSF, I really liked to min-max the filters for my personal needs, but that was very, very limited to the way that I played.
Yeah.
But I never really enjoyed like in-depth sessions where you like really trying to make a set of different items filters for your progression or something like that. I usually try to make one and get it done really quickly so I could use it and play the game. In a similar way where like a lot of times I don't like improving my build because that means sitting in my hideout and trading and equipping a bunch of things and theory crafting for extended amounts of time. And that sometimes when I'm in the mood to just blast maps, that doesn't constitute playing the game for me. But so I'm happy for people like Balor and Snoo, and of course Neversink, who make the item filter thing really easy for me.
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, say apparently I have one of the most popular loot filters, or one of the most followed ones on somebody. Somebody just alerted that to my attention the other day. I had no idea. But I've had a loot filter for over a year now, and I update it. 3 different strictness levels, but one of them doesn't really matter. It's just like early game chaos recipe stuff. Very, very minor tweaks. But the other 2 are pretty specialized. One is basically to me a loot filter. There's a few things you should probably think about when you're doing a loot filter. One thing you should think about is how much inventory space do I have? Would it be? It would probably be a good idea to try to not leave the map more than once, or maybe more than twice, depending on how much loot's dropping. Another concept or way of looking at it is, what do I think is worth my time to click? How much does a click have to be worth? So think in terms of click value.
I love that.
So yeah, so when you may suddenly realize that a chaos orb, while convenient, not really worth the click anymore. And this is one such league where a lot of people are going to come to that realization. And I've basically already come to the realization. So much so that I'm actually going to make a new filter that's even more strict than it was. Although I have edited mine to be strict enough to not pick up a loot filter. Maybe Awakened Sextant's worth picking up, probably. But there could potentially even that might fall off at a certain point. But this is just, of course, for major juicing magic find stuff. But anyway, here's one important piece of info that a lot of people would benefit from. Find yourself a filter from, some streamer or whatever, and it could be Balor, it could be me, it could be somebody else, and you can go to their site on the actual PoE website, look up their profile, and it'll have their filters. It'll have a section for their filters. You can follow it, and you can basically copy it in. But that comes with a drawback, whereby if they edit it in any way, it will turn out to edit yours, and you really have no control over it. I don't like that personally. So if I was somebody who was following stuff, what I would do is actually go to Neversink site, and you can actually pull somebody's filter and then edit it yourself from henceforth under a different name. And a lot of people don't know that. You have to search the player's account name caps sensitive to do that. So in my case, you see my name here on the video. If you type my name and the number, cap sensitive, you would actually pull my filters up, and you could essentially load them up into Neversink's filter editor, and you can save it for yourself and edit it from them for yourself. And you can just take my filter as a starting point, for example. I think a lot of people would benefit greatly from doing that. And I think anyone who's wanting to, get good at the game, that is one element of, doing it yourself, having that agency yourself. It's a good idea to get the hang of that yourself if you're at least willing.
No, that's
But
very great to point out, because I think a lot of people don't know that.
Yeah.
A lot of people know that there's the follow button, but they don't know you can make your own local copy, which is probably better because, unlike with the game, you don't get patch notes whenever there's changes, unless you're watching that streamer's content and you listen to what they say. I made changes to this or that. But if you've just been following the filter and then it just changes in the background without you knowing, and all of a sudden you think your drops changed, that would be weird.
If you're a lower knowledge player, which especially in the beginning you would be, absolutely just follow the filter, and it'll change, and you can change with it. And maybe it'll grow out of you, or you'll grow out of it. But at some point, you'll become a higher knowledge player, and you'll begin to take on that task yourself. At which point you should probably copy it and then edit it yourself, or make your own from scratch. Of course, you can.
So My thing when it comes to filters is that I believe eventually everyone should be making their own. I don't think you should be even copying mine. Eventually, at some point, definitely to begin with, you should follow somebody's filters. But eventually, you should be customizing your own filters. But I'm about to give Snooblay a shit ton of work. This takes so long, by the way. I recently, this league, split my entire filter into so far 7, and I'm currently building 2 more individual modules.
Yeah, I don't want to do a module thing.
The use of modules, not only can you just follow my filters if you want to, but if you don't want to because you don't like how they look, you can spend all the time in the world that you want setting up your own filter with whatever sounds and whatever visual appearance you like. And then you can apply the modules or the parts of my filter that you want. The div card tiering or hiding, the unique tiering or hiding, the rare gear tiering or hiding, the everything, all the currency tiering, just the leveling presets. If you just like the leveling part of my filter, every single part of it is split into individual modules. And now, if I update one module, if I decide, oh, hey, the meta change, suddenly Hubris circlets a top tier and it needs to make it into my fracture based showing thing so that I see those.
What do you mean? You're not showing fractured Hubris?
I just picked it as an example. I'm pretty sure they're still on right now. But now I do that one change to the module. It updates all 3 strictnesses of my filter if you're subscribed to it. And then also it updates anybody's filter who's made their own filter but likes my fractured tiering and has put the fractured tiering module on. So if you trust me to do that part for you, you can make your whole filter and then just have all of the modules. You can do any pick and choose everything. By the way, it's so much work to do all the modules. It's insane. But it's become very, very useful. I think I currently have 7,000, I think, people subscribe to the filter.
About to have 7,001. Now that I know that I can add your stuff to my visuals, because I love the look of default. So if I can just take like div card tiering from someone, which is the worst thing about loop filters, by the way, it's terrible. I will absolutely be doing that.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I'm gonna have to make a lot of videos on it. There's still a bunch more to come. I've only done like 7 modules, and I think I need like 14, I think, to cover everything separately so that people can pick whatever parts they like.
Thank you for your service.
Oh, this is a little bit unrelated, but did you guys know that D4 is actually a good game in one highly specific way?
Okay.
It has a better aesthetic and sound effect for its high level drops than PoE.
I don't believe you.
As much as we love the nostalgic swing sound, whenever you drop a unique in Diablo 4, it is pretty spectacular sound effect, sound design, and at some point I meant to pull that sound file over and put it in my filter, but I never did get around to it.
Wait, I need to know that now.
Yeah, you just have to go on YouTube, find a unique drop, short little 5-second clip or something. It's pretty epic. I could. Can
you do an impression of it? I think that might be.
Yeah, exactly.
Swing is low enough level. I can swing. I can do
the legendary drop sound. Is that it?
Yeah.
Can I lower the volume because I don't want to blast your ears? Awesome. It might not be. I think this is not the right one. 2 uniques at the same time. Hey, this is Don the Crown. This is a fellow PoE guy. Well, used to be, but let's see. I hope this is not too
playing
loud.
Diablo 4? What?
Well, I mean, Don hasn't been playing PoE.
I would never be caught dead playing that game.
Yeah, not live
anymore. Anyway.
Okay, guys, please.
All right, let's see it. This is serious loop filter meta.
Since I'm kind of like 2.5 monitors right now. I just dropped 2 uniques at the same time.
Okay, I didn't hear it.
I didn't even hear it.
Yeah, I couldn't hear it on there.
Yeah, I tried to, right? Like I searched for the unique drop Diablo 4
He
effect.
needs the problem is he still has the sound effects enabled in the game, so you need to take Balor's advice and turn off the sound of everything. Only leave the loot filter sound on. Then it'll be extra epic when he hears it.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I can't find that. We need to prepare that for next time we want to talk about it. We need a separate default.
People can, if they want to go out of their way, they can look for
it. And then they also don't find it, just like me right now. Maybe they're just better at searching for it than I am.
Well, you know, this game's just all about dopamine kicks. So if you can find a kick that kicks a little bit harder each time, maybe it's worth it.
That's fair.
I'm sure Balor would agree to that.
Well, between the Magic Find talk and the item filter talk, you guys have already provided so much value today for viewers. So I'm really happy that we did this podcast. But there's also is there stuff that would give wait, let me rephrase that. Is there other things that you want to talk about in terms of like the game? Any particular skill gems that you're looking forward to experimenting next with, or any future plans?
I have one more thing I want as many people to be aware of as possible. I've been saying this for a few days now since I realized how it was priced. The amulet that was added last league, called Defiance of Destiny. Everyone here is probably already quite familiar with it. It is currently 2 to 3 div in trade and like 7 if you want a really well rolled one. And in my opinion, it is the same power level as wearing a Mageblood. That's how much extra power it gives you. It is insane. It is only defensive power, but it fits into any build that can swap its amulet out. If you're not using like a unique amulet, you can just put this in. And so if you're really struggling because the league mechanic is pushing you in, Defiance of Destiny is your answer. That is quite cheap for how much power it gives. It's way undervalued. I don't know if it's just super common and so it's not going to be expensive, or if eventually people catch on and it becomes expensive. I don't know, but it is worth using, and in way more builds, even if it's not like an end game piece for you forever, if you're struggling and if you're dying, that is your answer.
Well, Balor, I'm going to have to push back on you on that one. I'm going to have to push back.
Let's go.
The real winner in the amulet slot this league is the absolute value of the Simplex amulet.
Yeah, but
no
that's
way I can do
twice the price for a base before it's crafted.
Oh, it's like 100 times the base, but it doesn't matter. It's 100 times more valuable. You know why? It's infinitely time more valuable because it's 20% How much quantity does Defiance of Banner have on it?
Yeah, 0. But it is insane. It's just yeah.
Infinite value scaling. Well, anyway, I just figured I'd throw that in there.
On top of that,
for the new Simplex amulet,
Ashes of the Stars being sub 2 divines for the first time ever is very exciting for people like me who see all the new gems and new qualities and go, okay, well,
so good.
I bought
did you see the price of Diablo's?
12 div.
Did you see Diablo's Malefaction? I thought this thing was going to be 10 divines this league.
I thought so too.
What's even going on there?
Everyone's playing Magic Find. All the creators are playing Magic Find, so there's no new like goofy, wacky builds coming out.
I don't actually think that many people are playing Magic Find. And like nobody's experimenting with new gems and new builds with quality stacking.
Players are, but creators are not, which means, I mean, we know that this game goes as the creators go. And unless you're seeing, the top creators, which I am not, making builds that use these items, then the price does not fluctuate nearly as much. Everybody wants the Magic Find power, so they're sacrificing things. Also, what's really surprising is with how few people are bossing, the price of boss loot is down. That's very shocking. I don't understand why that is.
Because boss loot's not used in magic finding via your own logic.
I mean, Progenesis is, and that's like what 75 divines or something right now.
Yeah.
So
I'm
Ubermaven
actually
invites
not
are
using
1.5
it, by the way.
divines.
I'm still not using Progenesis. I mean, I probably should be, but
Everybody should be. It's the best. It's the best generic power outside of maybe a Mageblood. I think in the game, it's assuming you have a life pool. It's
for those who have taken on the strategy of dropping down to tier 7, for example, as opposed to tier 16, they're finding that the challenge is in DPS, not survivability.
Right.
Unlike in Scourge League. So Scourge League in particular was a ramping up Magic Find League, and it made the monsters exceptionally rippy, but they were still got shredded. They still had like no major life pool. This league's the complete opposite. The monsters do a little more damage, but most of the damage is really just coming in, but by virtue of them surviving a few hits and actually landing hits on you. And it's exceptionally tanky, this league. So you actually have to contend with some of the content, which is, I think most people would agree, the better of the two options.
I prefer
tier 7 also means no altars too, and altars are a more multiplier of.
That's exactly right.
Damage,
but it would surprise a lot of people listening to this now that I'm using one of the absolute taboo Atlas Keystones right now, Dance of Destruction in T7. I haven't used that thing in like 2 years. Nobody's stupid enough to use it because you're not gonna be willing to sacrifice like 25% survivability for 25% more damage. It's just an absolute fool's errand, no matter what you're playing. But in this highly specific niche case, I do find myself using that keystone and it going very well, especially about things like trying to unlock, triple empowered Legion monsters in stasis. Extremely valuable for something like that. And they can't even hit back, in that moment. But I'm still surviving without too much issue. Yeah. Now, I would take that keystone if it was double the effect. If it was 50% more monsters incoming damage and 50% more damage out, or they have, 50% less life and did 50% more damage to me. I would take that trade right now.
I've always enjoyed the idea of me making a build that required you to take that keystone. What the YouTube comments would look like.
Yeah, give it a try. If you're into the lower tier juicing stuff, you might see it's absolute walloper strong keystone for that niche content.
Yeah, I've also never toyed with these. So there's always been like, oh, it would be cool to actually have a build that can or should take these, but never found myself in a place where I was like, yeah, this is the time to spec into it. Also, like the other one.
I've taken the one where you deal 25% more damage or they die quicker. When I wasn't strong enough yet, but I still didn't have defenses anyway. I was like, well, I get one shot regardless, so I might as well just kill them easier.
Maybe you'll land the freeze if you do that, right?
That might be the best use case for him. It's just, if you're glass cannon anyway, just might as well have easier access to one-shotting them.
That's it. I die if I get hit regardless, so 25% more still brings me to 0, same as if I didn't take it.
Fair enough.
By the way, did you guys notice the max roll? I don't know what happened to max roll, but all my links got broken on my videos recently. I think they're updating things on their back end, but today's been a kind of an awful day for Atlas links.
As the resident max roll guy, I'd like to apologize. Lots of new changes this league, so there's definitely.
I didn't know you were.
Some
Can you
issues? I don't know specifically what's going on today, but there's definitely been some link breaking and some struggles. But we rolled out a new tool and a new entire front end interface for the website. So there's definitely going to be some issues. So hopefully that gets fixed. I know our devs work 26 hours a day, so
it's a great site, and I'm not affiliated with them at all. But I want to just clarify, I'm not the least bit upset about it. But I did release a new video today that had 2 separate Atlas links, and then suddenly when I go out to lunch and everybody says, hey, I get like just spammed with comments. Hey, this link's dead. What are you doing? Like, why are you this link's dead? I'm like, what are you talking about? And I go back home and I check the links are dead. I'm like, well, that can't be right. The links are never dead. And then I saw it's actually updated with the new crafting base. I was like, oh, wait a minute, they're updating it. But something must have happened. on it. So I've been absolutely spammed with YouTube comments today about it, and had to even make a pinned comment on it and everything.
Oh boy.
Yeah, but just bad timing is all. Just bad timing.
Is that actually the default Atlas passive tree planner that people link
No,
and
never
share in
used it.
passive
PoE
trees?
planners.
No, it's far superior. It's a good site. It's far superior. It just happened to be having some troubleshooting issues now.
I prefer PoE planners for just Atlas trees.
Well, okay. Yeah, it's an old one. Still works good.
I do very much like the max roll site, but just for building my own trees, I don't.
No comment. I'm biased.
Yeah, I love being able to make comments on the stuff, being an unbiased third-party viewer. So
I really don't understand why the PoE, the pathofexile.com site doesn't have that.
Oh, it
does have
it
that
does. It's
functionality.
horrendous.
it does. Yeah, it's really bad.
It does. It's the worst option.
You can't click distant nodes to path to them. You actually have to click every single one.
I would rather
Oh,
really the Atlas
that's
in
horrible.
paint.
And then the adjacent nodes are like semi highlighted as if you already picked them, but you didn't, and it's like really awful.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll
People
try
keep
and avoid
asking,
that one.
when's the day? When is the day we're gonna get? You know, people always ask about stuff. When are we gonna get like great functionality on this or that? When are we gonna get built-in automated trade system? When are we gonna get built-in filters from the game? I don't know. How do you guys feel about that? Do you think GGG should go out of their way to make the biggest and best things, or should we
Why?
rely on the players to do that?
That's
What
exactly
your guys'
why.
position on that?
Why would they when we are so committed to making
Well, that
third-party
is
tools for
that is
them?
one point, yeah.
And they're when they have, let's say they have 20 developers working on this stuff. There are thousands of PoE players who are willing to put in time, who have backgrounds in this stuff that can make good tools. So, basically what happened with PoE Trade is we used PoE.trade for years. Then they finally were like, all right, we know enough about this to just incorporate all the good stuff and make our own website with it. And then it's now theirs is the best version. I think that's the way that they should continue to operate because it makes the most sense for them.
Yeah. I wouldn't want them to waste any time. Realistically, I think this league is fantastic, but there's been a lot of leagues where you're like, oh man, I wish they had another week or two. Like, this is so close to being perfect, but it isn't. But imagine if you take dev time away to work on tools we're already making. Like, nah, thanks.
I'd rather give $5 a month to Neversink and have him make the loot filter website than GGG try to take all of that on.
Yeah.
I actually agree with you guys. I'm just kind of trying to think of the devil's advocate argument here, why there does seem to be a fair number of commenters, here and there, especially when it comes to like the trade site, for example. Like, why isn't it better? Why, this and that. But
I've actually felt they've done a great job with the trade website since they really took over as the number one. I feel like they've added new things going into each league pretty well. Searchability of new items has been pretty good. Adding in things like charm searching, that we didn't have to wait for that, which is what we used to do. They would say, oh, that's coming in a week. But now it's just they build those things in. And I think they've done a fairly good job of foreseeing what we're going to want to look for. Baylor looks like he disagrees.
I like most of the trade website. I'm really biased about it because it rate limits me. I do like 2 searches and it's like, no more searching for you. And I'm just like, okay. I guess I won't do anything then. I can't stop it. I don't know what's
Do we all
causing
get
it.
the same rate limit amount? Because I feel like I don't run into that unless I'm doing like if I'm in maps and I'm using Awakened PoE Trade a ton and price checking a ton of different rares or something, then it'll hit me after like 10 or 15. But
if I didn't know any better, I'd say my account was flagged for getting rate limited super quick because it happens when I search 1 or 2 things. But I asked. I know people who work at the building, and they're like, yeah, tags like that don't even exist. There's nothing. You couldn't be flagged. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess I just get rate limited then. I don't know.
Maybe just unconsciously spam your Awakened PoE Trade without. without realizing how much you're doing it. I don't know. I don't get
yeah.
rate limited much either. Yeah, I agree with Arrow. Basically the same boat there.
Yeah, it happened like once or twice to me ever that I exceeded the rate limit and I got that message, but normally never.
One time I got rate limited for 30 minutes. I was like, what in the world?
That's a ban.
Like, it was
That's
out
not
of
even
nowhere.
a limit.
No, it didn't give me a warning or nothing. It was just like I searched something like 50 times and then it was like 30-minute wait. Excuse me?
Yeah. No, I think it's both. Obviously, they save a bunch of time by making the community come up with the best tools to play the game, but it's also hard to draw a line. Whereas there's like, what is the burden of the game developer? Because honestly, the game is just supposed to give us puzzles to solve. And as long as it does that well, and people have to figure out solutions to the various problems. I mean, obviously, there's a minimum baseline of quality of life that people expect nowadays from a game. And there's some things where I'm like, PoE is a little bit archaic and like trying to stick to the old ways a little bit too much. Especially
PoE
like,
players optimize everything so much that even if they incorporated every tool that we have, by next Thursday, we'd have come up with new tools to solve new problems. That's just the way that this community is. People who like PoE are wired a certain way that optimizing and building tools is just something that we like to do. So I don't think they'd be able to keep up with how much innovation there is in that space. There's always new tools coming out. Like, PoE Stack is not the new thing, but a fairly new to market tool that everyone's using now.
Good.
It's phenomenal. And none of us even thought that could exist, 2 leagues ago. So it's or 5 leagues ago, whatever. So I think the innovation is too fast for GGG to try to keep up. Just let us make tools, and then when they're good enough, if they want to make their own version, incorporate into the game, then do that.
yeah, Path of Building was also like incredibly hard to imagine before it actually became reality. Like you didn't think that was going to realistically happen. Such a thorough build planner would exist at some point.
And now we can find timeless tools for you and pick your best rares to replace.
That
and
aspect specifically,
play for you if you want.
Crazy. No, I think not only does it save time for GGG, to repeat that point, but like what I was originally trying to get at is like they also, I think, intentionally leave those things for the community to be done to some degree, right? I'm not saying they're trying to be lazy and trying to save time, but in a way it also strengthens the relationship that a player has with the game when you're more involved in playing the game than just playing the game, right? Like if you have social connections, you're working together in a team with other people, there's maybe, positions and responsibilities distributed, and you have this workflow of like coming together every league to do this or that. I mean, like someone who has dedicated so much time to building Path of Building or continuing the project of the original creator, Openall, when he was hired by GGG and couldn't continue Path of Building. If you've done what Local Identity has done for so long and you're part of this Path of Building team, obviously you're way less likely to jump off and be like, next league I'm not going to play, right? You're at least going to try and out. And I think to some degree, the heavy reliance on third-party tools is also what makes the PoE community be different from other game communities in that way, and how like consistent and loyal they are to Path of Exile.
If you look at other games with incredibly strong communities that last as long as something like PoE, which is 10 years old, they're all games with big modding communities. And when you build that modding community, it's just like these third-party tools where everyone's getting together to make new things. It's very exciting. And when new patches come out, you got to fix it and upgrade it. And I think that's that same idea, is that the community is more than just all people who play the game. It's all people who want to make the game better in whatever way they can help do.
I never thought of it as modding, but that is really similar. Huh.
I think that's one of the reasons why the Diablo community lasted so long in the dark ages or whatever, when there was basically getting no updates and no Diablo 3 yet. And there's a huge modding community, offline gameplay they do there. I never played any of those mods, but I could see that whatever was going on there, it was definitely helping keep that community alive, keep the game alive. when it received so few updates for so long. Yeah, so it makes sense to me.
Dude, I'm so hungry. I expanded my stomach through the holidays, and now I can't go without food for very long. It's just awful. So I'm looking forward to eating something, but I don't know what yet. I was asking earlier, did we want to go over some skill gems that we're still excited to tinker with? Or is there something else pressing that you want to talk about? I just feel like that would be Arrow's space to shine, because you're the guy who rerolls builds all the time. So,
I mean, yeah. So the new skill gems is the whole whether it's the quality on the old gems that changed, or the gems themselves that changed, or the transfigured versions. There's so many new possibilities that I think this is probably the biggest potential meta shakeup we've ever had, and we're not really going to see it, I think, until next league. I think as we explore all of these new gems, you can't have a great league starter with a new gem because nobody used it. So all of the great new league starters are going to come out next league. And us content creators who do a lot of league star testing at the end of leagues, we're going to be diving into all of those gems. And I think it's going to make for a really fun last month of the league where people are discovering, oh, well, I didn't realize how powerful this was, in Act 3. And I think the league start meta next league will be entirely different. But as far as this league goes, there are so many gems that I don't even know which one to name. I'm so excited about so many. One of the big things I was excited about was Power Siphon. This is a build that I already played. And Locust Mines, because Locust Mines, this is my content creation magic find skill. It's such a bad gem, but it has so much power in it because it basically is free minefield support. It's got a better damage multiplier than Blast Chain or High Impact. And it's just really easy to get a ton of throwing speed on it. So all you have to do is figure out how to fix the absolutely broken mechanics of throwing mines that you can't throw at your feet, but then they aim at your feet. And Power Siphon fixed that. Power Siphon got changed this league so that it fires projectiles at up to, I guess, 8 enemies, but you can't barrage with it anymore. So it loses its single target. But Locust Mines gives you 3 mines to throw at the same time. So that gives you 3 times the Power Siphon damage. So Power Siphon kind of solves the problem of Locust Mine aiming at your feet because it auto targets enemies. And Locust Mine solves the problem of low single target. So they're like a perfect match. And then one really cool interaction I want to kind of let the community know about. This was brought to me by one of my viewers. Fury Valve works differently this league than it used to.
Oh,
the way that it used to work is it would take whatever projectile skill you were firing, and it would fire 1 projectile out, and then all of your additional projectiles would fire as splits off of the enemy that you hit.
Yep.
But now a bunch of gems were changed to be worded differently. So that Fury Valve wasn't actually changed. The gems were changed. So, for example, Power Siphon now says fires a projectile at some number of enemies instead of, I don't remember what the old wording was, but basically what changed was it now still fires all of those projectiles, and then any additional projectiles will split. So Power Siphon with Fury Valve fires 8 projectiles at nearby enemies, and then any additional projectiles after that split off of all of those targets. That works for Spark. That works for, I think it's Splitting Steel. So any gem that has built-in projectiles will fire all of those anyway, and then get all the splits. So the clear is absolutely bananas if you use a skill that has built-in projectiles.
Oh.
Maybe the tornado shot gem still has a chance then.
I think there's maybe like 10 or so skill gems that can abuse this multi-proj, multi.
Wait, again, so just to be clear, that sound really stupid because I'm just repeating what you said, paraphrasing. But Fury Valve, the unique amulet, has a line that says modifiers to number of projectiles instead apply to the number of targets projectiles split towards. And what you're saying is if the plus additional projectiles doesn't come from external effects, but from the base gem, then you still get the splits from that, but you don't remove the projectiles.
So Spark used to say fires 2 additional projectiles to get you to 3 projectiles. This is a hypothetical, but now it says fires 3 projectiles. So they're not additional projectiles. Additional projectiles will get added to the splits, but base projectiles do not. So if a skill says fires blank projectiles, it will still fire those. And then additional, like Deadeye gets +2. And that's what I played Power Siphon with. So I had 8 projectiles that auto-targeted enemies per mine that then split 4 times. Times 3 mines is, I don't know, like it was like 70 something projectiles per throw.
That sounds crazy.
I think we're going to see some more Fury Valve builds coming soon, and probably from me as well, because it's very, very fun to cover the screen in projectiles.
I mean, you've sent me over to the vendor in game where I'm just like staring at all of the gems to figure out.
That's exactly what I did.
That's way more interesting than the skill that I was gonna play next. I was thinking that I keep seeing no one use Warlock. And so I want to use Warlock because I feel like it should be good at something. It should be good at something. And so the idea I had was I forget the name of the shield that makes it cost your life, like 10% of your life when you use a skill. Wrath Pit to add a bunch of damage. Warlock with its blood magic stuff. But then Bladefall of Impaling, up the skill cost as much as I can, get its crit to 100, make it impale, make it a champion, and then go.
I've seen that on a jug or like some Marauder build with Impale, Bladefall, low life with like 20k life or something like that total.
Yeah, well, with the champion's Impale scaling, I feel like I can make that into a real build. I don't know yet, but I hope so. That was one I was looking at for at least at some point this league.
Yeah, I think what you're doing right now, Baylor, is you're doing some content creation magic find, because you say Warlock stinks, which it does. So please make it work. I look forward to it.
Oh, just no one's using Warlock, and I feel bad for Warlock. I mean, it should be better than that. So I want to find a way. But yeah, that's the only one I've got.
I still wanted to try, and I'm sure someone has already tried it, but like just for myself, since I'm playing the Explosive Trapper, there's 2 different transfigured gems. Oops, I didn't want to bring that up again. There's one, the Explosive Trapper Shrapnel, which everyone uses because it's just bigger base damage, bigger radii, and bigger damage effectiveness. So it's just straight up better than regular Explosive Trap for like your average clear. And the only difference where you'd want the regular Explosive Trap is like small single targets, because then you get more overlaps in total versus the Explosive Trap of Shrapnel. So it ends up being more damage still. But for any other situation, the of Shrapnel is better. But there's another one called Explosive Trap of Magnitude, and that one doesn't have smaller explosions, but it's just one big explosion, but also doesn't have innate gem conversion, like the 50% physical to fire. So with that one, you could make a pure cold damage Explosive Trap, or you could do poison Explosive Trap. And I don't know, it's probably not going to be the best choice for either of those like build.
We definitely need
archetypes.
More poison builds, so please make it.
Yeah, maybe next league. But yeah, I'm just curious what that's going to be. I'm looking it up as we speak right now, because I'm actually curious how its base damage is.
I like the idea of taking away innate conversion on gems to open up new possibilities. Because I mean, when you do some amount of built-in conversion, you limit the skill pretty significantly.
Yep.
So I think that's a cool way for them to explore. The transfigure gem stuff is awesome, but I think one of the really cool things is changing kind of the core identity of the gem. So you still have you don't have to make a new visual. It's still, it's still spark, but now it's spark of freezing or something, and now it's got, some built-in cold damage. I think that's a really cool way for them to give us new things to work with and expand the sandbox that we're all playing in without having to do too much work on the back end.
Yeah, so I did find it. I brought it up here. It actually, it doesn't have smaller explosions, but it's much bigger base damage on the one big explosion that it does cause, and has huge damage effectiveness, 330% instead of 100% on the base explosive trap gem, and I believe 120 on the explosive trap of shrapnel, which makes sense because obviously you only get one hit out of this instead of like 1 plus 6 or 7 smaller ones potentially. But
less throwing speed.
That sounds awful.
That's a sad stat to add.
Yeah, it's the worst.
Throwing speed took a nerf this league. A lot of gems lost it, but you can probably make up for it.
Well, I mean, you do get the charge trap supports, the 7 frenzy charges, and that's like 70% increased. So 30% less of 70 increased, you still end up having more than 100% base. But yeah, obviously it's not as fast as it used to be. So you got to see in the specific situation whether you like the trap throwing speed or not. Just throw it with mines. There's another.
There you go.
Another way to do
the mine trapper.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm probably not going to try this on my current build because the current build is using alt ailments, and if you just convert it all into one type of damage, then you only get one type of alt ailment, right? And I can't get Scorch if I convert it all to cold. I'm kind of happy with the 50-50 cold fire. But yeah, there's still tons of min-maxing that I have to do on the current build.
I'm busy staring at projectiles. I'm sorry. I'm still staring at the projectile vendor.
Have you seen anything that you would like to see that you like?
I can't answer that question until I get a Fury Valve and just walk out into some low-level content just to see how the projectiles interact.
A better way to do it is to go onto PoE and sort by projectile gems, and then it'll kind of carve down the list a little bit for you. I already spent a few hours doing this. That absolutely derailed my day.
Isn't found. Like, there's so much.
There's so many interactions that we haven't discovered yet that are going to be, even stronger than what we have now. So I'm very excited to continue to make builds and test.
Yep.
Yeah, I've seen today someone said they're doing a cast on crit frozen pulp. No, what was the Frostblink? Right, the Frostblink of Wintry Blast that doesn't have a cooldown but has a cast speed instead. And obviously that we said that when we saw it, when they revealed the gem stats, that was going to be great for triggering.
That's what I'm doing. Yeah, I'm triggering it. I'm not casting it on crit because when you cast it on crit, it becomes Flicker Strike and it sends you where you crit. But if you just trigger it with Asenaths, you can get enough damage in a 4-link to get significant damage from it. And my trigger is Frenzy. With a Tincture, I'm able to get hits can't be evaded while on low life, so I don't have to invest in accuracy. So it's kind of a low effort cast on crit setup, and just basically holding down right click, 7.5 blinks per second, and it's wild. It's still very early days. The build's not entirely fleshed out. I need to do some fixing today, but it's already very, very fun.
Yeah, that sounds intriguing. Yeah. I thought for a hot second I might want to look into the Frostblink thing, but yeah, when I really think about it now, not like this. Not like this.
I would love to put it into a cast while channeling setup with like a channeling skill so that you could just like zoom around while holding down one button, but
You can't lower the cooldown of cast while channeling, so you're limited to around 3 per second, which actually isn't that fast. It's trivial to run faster than 3 frost blinks per second. So I originally started with a cast while channeling Winter Orb setup. I tried that; it didn't feel good. Then I tested Spell Slinger, and that was just too much. It was too much investment in order to make it work. So Azanaths is the trigger now.
But how low can you get Azanaths?
I have the POB has 7.58 casts per second. I think I'm at around 6 right now, but my trigger rates aren't lined up, so sometimes it misses and it's a little clunky. But we just put the build together yesterday on stream, so it's very much early days. Got a lot of tweaking and learning to do.
No, I'm excited to see that. But yeah, like what you said, Winter Orb was the most obvious choice, but I also was afraid that that was not going to be good because, like you said, limited cast rate, but also most importantly, sacrificing like 2 gem slots on your main damage skill.
Well, the damage from Frostblink of Wintry Blast is massive. So I'm using an Ashes, which was very cheap, to get more quality, and the quality on that Frostblink gem gives you more damage with hits per chill effect on the enemy. So I'm an Elementalist, I get 40 chill effect that I'm getting from my Ice Spear that's triggering, and I think it's 200% more damage with hits from quality if you have a 40% chill on the enemy, which I always do. So the damage you can get from that gem is nuts. The problem is it removes it every time you hit the enemy that's chilled. So you have to have something that's triggering just as fast or chilled. Cast in between to re-chill the enemy. And it doesn't work with Skitterbots. I had a viewer test that. Skitterbots, it will remove the chill, and then they have to leave the area, the chilling area for Skitterbots, and come back in before it will chill them again. So before anybody wastes any time with that, don't use
the real secret reason why they removed the enchants, so that you couldn't get the Word of Spite to apply the chill.
That's true.
I thought that probably the same way because it was chilled ground, and then they'd have to walk off the chilled ground and on again, I guess.
Chilled ground does work. Like Vortex chilled ground actually does reapply. I don't know how long it takes. There are some weird interactions with some effects that are removed and reapplied that there's a delay. So I haven't personally tested it, so there may be a delay. If you're triggering 7 times per second and it takes 0.2 seconds, you're not going to get those hits. So somebody smarter than me will have to test that.
All right, it's new. Did you have any exciting things that you're looking forward to that you can share? I mean, obviously you wouldn't want to disclose secret discoveries.
Well, next on my agenda is swapping to Tornado Shot with a big major build upgrade. So normally that's nothing really exciting specifically, but this league it kind of is because, again, very aspirational mapping content we have on our hands. So I'm looking forward to seeing how it works. I've never actually played a pure elemental Tornado Shot build of any kind, and I want to try that this league, and I want to do an apples to apples comparison with a Fizz to element conversion, which is the more superior version generally thought of. But we do have the interesting, Poison Tincture, which kind of lines up potentially well with the flat elemental damage. However, when I POB it in a, let's just say, highly invested character, my POB DPS, for example, is like 50 million, and the poison DPS is like 500k. That's kind of awkward. So I wasn't sure if the POB is kind of broken for it, but I don't think it is. I think perhaps it's just so much crit scaling that that doesn't impact poison damage in any way. It's like 600% crit multi and 100% crit chance and
perfect
like
agony.
That. Yeah. I looked at perfect agony. Perfect agony increased my poison damage from like 500k to 1 million. And nerfed my overall damage by like 40%. So I'm afraid that's going to have to be a giant no. I don't know how you get perfect agony to work or anything, actually.
The answer is you don't. I promise. You don't.
Maybe there's, I was going to say, maybe you have some secret tech up your sleeve or whatever. But
trust me, I've tried.
Yeah, so I did, of course, tag that keystone to see what happened. But no, it was all negative, basically. Yeah, so I'm not sure where, like, people are all like, over the moon about the poison tincture, all damage poison stuff. Maybe it's good for like really limited low end scaling, I guess. But once you start investing in a build, like a crit build especially, it just kind of goes out the window. Pretty negligible.
High
What do
end
you
crit
guys
is
think?
too available to when you're investing the kind of currency that I know you are. High end crit is just the best way to play PoE. But if you're like, if you're looking at like bossing scenarios, then poison is generally incredibly strong. But no one's doing 50 million mapping with poison. Also, why would you ever want to poison for mapping?
Well, there is
it's
one
just
specific
worse.
reason. There's one highly specific reason this league, and it's the mastery. Monsters poison cannot deal critical strikes, and the blue wisp
So
juice
strong.
is actually nuts with
Crit
crits. So
immunity's
they get
massive.
infinitesimal, or rather, almost like infinite levels of crit scaling, damage, and chance. That, I mean, you basically need to be crit immune at the highest level. So you got to figure out some way to do that. There's not that many ways to do it. One way would be, especially with tornado shot, even a minimal chance of poison on hit would keep everything poisoned at all times, basically.
A single poison wheel to take the mastery.
Yeah.
Good.
So I'm looking at investing 4 passive points, the one that actually gives you at least a little bit of chaos resistance on the side. That's right there on the right hand side, and that would sync up well with, hypothetically, a tincture that makes all damage poison, eligible for poison. But I guess it doesn't really matter because that damage is negligible. I'd be better off just taking the call tincture and just exiting call out of the build. Otherwise, I would actually result in more damage.
If you've just got like 15 flat fizz, you can poison, and then that's enough.
Yeah.
To
with a pure
make them
with a pure elemental bow, it comes with some flat fizz anyway.
Yeah.
So it's not converted all anyway. So
if you're doing 100% conversion from fizz, it just means you need like 1 jewel with like flat chaos on it, and you're good.
Yeah.
Another way to solve that crit problem is elusive on boots. If you're not using Ralakesh, elusive on boots, and then a charm that gives you cannot be.
It's not 100% uptime though, right?
If you're generating it from critting, which is what your boots give you, and you're hitting any reasonable amount of times, you're going to have it almost instantly back. But
sounds like a good idea
there
for
is
a
small amount of downtime. Yeah. I don't think you can get that on the gold worm boost, but
I can't sacrifice those boots. No, sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you can't fit the poison tick into the build, most builds use curses, right? And like many builds in the top or right side of the tree go Whispers of Doom. You can get the Curse Mastery for reduced extra damage from critical strikes by cursed enemies. I mean, it's only 40%, but you can stack it with other things.
I didn't even know about that
50% corruption on a chest is a really good way to get it as well.
Yeah, that's the way that a lot of people get it, The alternative is 50% from the chest, and then the crit mastery is 30% there. You can get 80% crit damage reduction. I'm not sure how I'd fit in the remaining 20%, or if it's necessary to do so. Probably
I
is,
have to spend my crit mastery on increased effect of non-damaging ailments.
Well, I like to do that too, but you could just hit harder and you'll be fine.
You're confusing what you like to do with what you have to do. What you have to do is not die.
Well, I have the mark mastery for marked enemy cannot deal critical strikes, which is obviously very good in like against the map boss and against like those super tanky empowered rares. But yeah,
there's too many rares
the one
on
or
screen
other.
for that to be.
Yeah, there's definitely situations where you can't.
I'll tell you guys about a little cool tech thing that I'm looking into. Something I tested, I haven't told anybody about. So earlier this league, I tested a Warlord's Mark cast on crit, which seemed to impress a lot of people. The potential of infinite rage generator, or the best rage generation, rage sustain through Berserk that you can probably have in the game right now, is a 100% crit chance build with Tornado Shot on a second Mana Forge link that's connected to cast on crit and Warlord's Mark. And basically the Warlord Mark keeps going out, just spinning like a wheel, just spinning, constantly hitting, triggering random things, and everything's getting stunned. But this only works if your build features the line cannot freeze target, so you cannot do any freeze. So in my case, Secrets of Suffering is something I want to put in my new build because I want to try and use that tech again. And there's still one flex slot. So if this is in a 6 link, it does have a flex slot. So I'm thinking I might actually put in punishment as a curse in there. So I tested this on my build on the back end, and it seems like you're not supposed to use a mark with a curse and have a curse limit of 1. But in this particular case, with this highly niche sort of gameplay, it doesn't matter. You can get away with cursing targets pretty widely, and then also getting the mark and also getting the stun. And as I tested, it was a negligible difference in terms of its uptime on the rage, because that's a major concern. Is the rage generation, the mark on it still going to land? But it looks like I believe the mark, if it's in the same link, the mark takes priority. Mark of Warlords, I think, is actually the highest priority skill gem, all things being equal, and then punishment's way back in the back. So the mark will take priority over punishment, and everything around will get punishment on it. Or you could do elemental weakness if you want. But I figure it's a grand opportunity to actually use a skill gem that you can't just get corrupted on gloves. And it's pretty awesome skill gem by the looks of it. Also features some damage reduction, potentially. And yeah, so that is something I might do at the very, very end game. And if enemies at low life are taking 60% more damage or whatever, which is even greater than elemental weakness, they're probably more likely to get stunned. So it should work out pretty well.
My only problem with punishment is that it has anti-synergy with culling. So they spend less time taking the increased damage if you have cull, which kind of feels bad.
Yeah, but still, if it's the difference between you taking like 1 hit or 2 hits to cull them.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I find at the ultra late end game threshold, culling strikes basically meaningless. Like, it's nice to have it on the build, but doesn't really mean anything at that point, because you're typically killing everything before the 10% last life threshold.
Right.
I do like culling. I do like cull on my current build, because it's the kind of a quick hitting build that does chaos dot damage. So the damage over time, you really get to feel the impact of culling strike when you have a build like that. But yeah, for some 50 million damage tornado shot build pre-headhunter buff, I mean, that's just gonna almost culling doesn't matter. In fact, it may turn out to be that punishment doesn't even matter at that point, but it probably will this league with how tanky some of the monsters are. Yeah.
I have one more question. But yeah, please go ahead, Bella.
This whole podcast is going to send me down a path of building rabbit hole for hours. I don't have time for this.
Success.
Well, I got something to distract you. You said earlier that I think you said something. I think when we were talking about the community features, and like you didn't want GGG to waste time on making the quality of life as good as the community features make it, because you were like, this league is already so good. Imagine how good it would have been if they spent 2 more weeks developing it. And now my question would be, what would you have liked to see developed more in this league, assuming that they had 2 weeks more?
Nothing. That was this. Well, I mean, there's some things, but that was more a comment on like past leagues that were nearly good, but not quite there.
Okay.
Not this one. Right. This one's great. The only thing I want them to do is put an exit button downstairs, so that I can exit without logging out or dying when I decide there's too much juice here and downstairs? I'm in danger. Yeah, underneath.
Is that what we call the forest?
Yeah, I can never remember its name.
Wildwood.
I like downstairs. I think I would have used that.
Yeah, whenever I'm downstairs on a build that's not strong enough to get all the juice yet. Like, I'm still scared of mobs that are on the gear, so I don't want all of it, but I want some of it.
Yeah, it is a little weird that we don't have that button, because we have it in Delirium, obviously. We have it in Blight to initiate the Blight. I suspect, well, let's just imagine a world where this league mechanic actually goes core. We can imagine that there would be a button devoted to it. Right, guys?
Yeah, I'm on a button, right? That's it.
And I don't know whether people in chat are trolling, because I've seen that before, but people are just saying, just run into the black, just go into the darkness and it will throw you out. Well, try doing that when you still have like juice left. You can't, because you carry the light with you. You can only do that after you've done the encounter, that you walk into the dark to get out of it. You cannot do it while you still have light radius or
Oh,
whatever.
I think they
you wanna
might be
call it.
referring to the strategy where people go back to get juice, because a lot of creators have been promoting the be really efficient about gathering
maybe
juice.
they're
Don't run
confusing
into
that,
the
yeah.
dark to get it. So that's what I was thinking about.
They might be long past the world where they have to give up early for fear of
So
just
they're
missing out.
talking about you can run into the dark without following wisp trails, intentionally going down areas where there isn't any juice.
That's awfully big
works.
brain, Balor. That's really big brain, though.
Oh, that darkness.
That's big brain.
It works, but it also takes you 20 extra seconds. Like, why isn't there just an exit button? Just be an
Chances
exit button.
you do that, you just randomly run into like the event that gives you like 3k wisp, and then you just have to hightail it the opposite direction.
Yeah, which is like what you're trying to avoid in that situation.
Yeah.
You're like, wait, too much juice.
I have encountered that exact scenario before, early on when I was really stutter-stepped about collecting as much wisp as I needed to, and before I understood that I could drop the map tier level and make it easier and everything. Yeah,
I have one
Right.
thing that I wanted from this league a little bit more, but I'm actually not even certain that I do want it. I knew when they started introducing all these gems the week before in these giant batches that none of them have been tested. I mean, really, none of them have been tested. They bricked ethereal knives. It didn't have any what is that distance? It was going like, I don't know, 40 units before disappearing, and it wasn't intentional. So there was so many bugs with different skill gems at League Start, because they weren't able to test it, because they rolled out these new ideas days before or minutes before release. But at the same time, it gives us a lot of cool stuff that is probably going to get nerfed next league, like Penance Brand of Dissipation's absurd damage. Just the damage built into the gem is absolutely insane. And if they tested that more, they probably would have reduced it. So it does give us some cool stuff, but there was a lot of bugs on League Start with some of the new gems that were changed.
I think if they had another 2 weeks, there would have just been more gems.
That's probably true.
I don't think you would have got way more testing. I think there has been way more gems.
Yeah, there was actually one gem that didn't give experience when you killed enemies with it. I don't remember which one it was, but it actually got you
of something or other.
Yeah, you got no XP, so you couldn't use it.
Yeah, from the extra projectiles that with the direct kill you did.
The frostblade that leaves a dot.
Yeah,
which also made you scale the dot. So it was the way you would get the kills, but anything that died from the dot wouldn't give experience.
Okay, then I misunderstood that. I thought it was just the secondary projectiles from Frostblades. That's crazy.
But it wasn't too bad. I think this League Start, I want to give GGG some credit. They did a lot this league, and it was a very, very good League Start for most people.
Oh, yeah. Unless you started Poison Concoction, in which case...
Right. In which case it was the worst.
Yeah.
All right. I believe Reddit agrees with you. I just double checked. I haven't looked in a while, but it looks like that this is one of the most tame Reddit leagues I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
Really and I'm a little surprised because the difficulty is there. It absolutely is there, and it's definitely gatekeeping a lot of players from.
And the obscure scaling is there.
Yeah, yes, and
you can't see.
I mean, right now on Reddit, there's something about some dude he said on there, "Hey, I just got 83 divine orbs off of one monster solo magic bind." Usually, that would trigger the bejesus out of everybody, but I don't really see much triggering going on. Maybe everybody's dropping 83 divine orbs solo magic bind. I don't know.
It feels like Arch Nemesis with a little bit of choice. You're still getting these monsters that take 3 minutes to kill, but you get to decide how far you push it. They don't just show up.
And these ones drop loot.
Yeah.
And you're not magicifying culling them. Yeah.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I'm allowed to kill them myself. That's great. Love that.
Yeah. Anyway, I figured I'd just shout out the Reddit community for having its head on straight, for accepting a higher level difficulty and higher level rewards and being content with that. Actually, bravo Reddit. Yes. You won't hear me say that very often, but I just want to give a round of applause to all the Redditors out there.
Us content creators
You're doing
don't
good.
often give kind words to Reddit, but they've been pretty nice this league.
No, I think also I'm insanely impressed with how well the community is accepting and celebrating the Valdo's puzzle box. I mean, everyone but Balor, but no, I mean,
you just had to ruin a good day, man.
I've been going on rants since the day they were released about how bad this is for the economy. I cannot stand them. I hate every time one drops, I'm mad. Because the ones that I get, of course, are the bad ones. So I can't even profit off of this thing that people are printing mirrors from. I think, here we go in chat.
No, but there's been so many good like clips, so much good content around that. The ability to die in softcore, you know, Balor may not like it, but like it has brought a lot of people into the hardcore mindset of how do I build a character that can take on this challenge without losing it.
But the number of people that are actually doing that is, you know, you could
Like
fit them all in a room, and those people are all able to do these maps, and every once in a while they lose a character, but in the process they are printing stacks of Mage Bloods, and it's a win more mechanic unlike anything we've ever had in PoE, where if you can just get enough currency to be able to do these maps, you can print basically infinite currency. And there's never been something that's so inaccessible to all but 20 people that is so profitable. It's the best way to make money in the game right now. Like Captain Lance on stream plays the game for 5 minutes an hour, and he's making 300 divines an hour. It's just really that's not great.
It's actually the first time in the history of PoE that crafting or flipping is less profitable than playing the game, which is another way to look at it.
That's true.
I'm just trying to make it sound good. I'm not happy about him either.
I celebrate every time I see somebody die on the ladder. It makes me happy.
Yeah, that's the aspect where I'm like, I really enjoy it.
So does general chat, yeah, it brings back some D2 vibes, I guess. I have mixed feelings on it. On the one hand, I get to reap some major benefits from a new drop that is just giving me a lot of extra currency, whether I run the maps or not. I get to see a lot of Valdo's maps, not right now in Tier 7 Cemetery, but you know, across the whole spectrum of my league gameplay, I will see quite a few of those boxes drop, and I'll be able to just sell them. I typically don't even open them. Sell for 3 divine in bulk. They're going up, so you would think that you said like Captain Lance making Killing on there. The market should stabilize it to a certain extent. Should stabilize on that. We'd hope so, but yeah. It seems a little bit like gatekeeping. On the other hand, like you said, you know, about the 20 or so players that can do them. On the other hand, on principle, you know, I used to play hardcore in the Diablo games because it was a little bit more suitable that game to play hardcore than this game. But I do have a certain appreciation for the risk of a character, and I do appreciate in these maps that the player has the complete agency to do so. There's really nothing they can say to say like, "Oh, that wasn't fair" or whatever. I mean, yeah, you could disconnect in the Valdo's map, but it's very limited time. You're specifically looking at that content. You agree to all the terms and conditions. You open the map, and then you die. It's your fault, right? That's kind of how that is set up, and that's the best framing you can look, the best lens you can look through it, I guess. And I do like that idea that softcore players have an opportunity to do some really high stakes gambling, for lack of a better word, and they can gamble their entire character away doing that. So I do think it's fine that on principle something like that maybe should be the most lucrative out of all, because the stakes are as high as they are. But not all the maps are set up with a voided Mageblood opportunity either. Some of them just give it to you, I guess, pretty easily. So but yet, in that kind of case, somebody else can run it. Somebody with less of a risk aversion can run it.
I do agree with what you're saying about softcore players getting a chance to do the hardcore thing. But because this is a trade economy, that ultimately isn't what's happening. You have people dropping these maps and they go, I can't run this. I'm never going to build a character that can run this. And that effectively everyone sells it to those 20 people. So it just becomes the win more times a million. No player is going to drop one of those maps and go, should I sell this for 150 divines, or should I spend the rest of the league trying to build a character that can run this one map? They're all just going to sell it, which is unfortunate. If it was character bound, which I know GGG does not like, if it was character bound, that would be a very cool way of saying, all right, now you've got the league to try to get this Mageblood, but they're never going to add something like that. So it's just going to be in a trade economy, a way for the 1% of the 1% of the 1% to print mirrors.
But isn't that the definition kind of what aspirational content is? I mean, if you add more aspirational content that is harder to make, which is what everyone wants to have, then there's always going to be like a select few that can run that first when it's implemented.
Right, and to piggyback off of what you say there, one of the issues with just making aspirational content for the sake of making aspirational content is the rewards aren't good enough. And then people will complain, oh, it's great aspirational content, like the Uber bosses in the beginning, especially, I think the first time they were released. Great aspirational content, why would I do it? There's no rewards there. So maybe, they took that lesson to heart and made it rewarding as all get out while being, somewhat aspirational, I guess. Yeah.
Well, I guess we can all agree on. I like some things that these boxes, the implementation of these boxes, does accomplish. I don't like other things. Like the economic factor is definitely pretty big, especially this league. But maybe there will be adjustments to the drop rates. Maybe it will even out with more people making other maps with the submission system when they buy supporter packs and they get to submit their choice of mod combination and of reward for the map. So either through dynamics of people adjusting that, like people taking different things, or GGG adjusting drop rates, maybe it will be in a better place next league.
I actually agree with much of what Arrow said in sentiment. I'm playing a little bit of devil's advocate here because I know what I know where I understand the mindset that some people are usually more in the casual end would have to his arguments, and they would say something like, what is wrong with more Magebloods being in the economy? Maybe I can actually get one now. And they would say something like that. And the kind of player I am, I'm kind of easy to discard that kind of comment personally, but I think it is fair to raise it up because a lot of people feel that way. Obviously, a lot of people are quite happy that Magebloods are a lot cheaper, so are headhunters, and they want to see you understand, to certain people, that is the economy, the resulting economy has favored them in such a way that they are more likely to continue playing the game to shoot for something that seems to be a little bit more reachable with them.
That's fair. I don't think my issue is as much with how available Magebloods are and rather the source of them. And that if you go look for a Mageblood, most of them are foiled. If you go look on the trade website, it's like half of them are foiled, which means they're all coming from these puzzle boxes, which are all being run by 20 people. And somebody in chat said something about an aversion to the 1%. It's not the 1% that are running these maps. It's not even close to the 1%. No. It is the one. It literally is probably 30 or 40 people that are like effectively running these and making a lot of currency off of it. The 1% are people who use gilded scarabs. Maybe not even that. It might even be less. I think the perspective of what an average player is and what the 1% is very, very skewed. As someone who makes content who tries to make content for all players, most people don't use scarabs. So
but it also depends.
Farming Magebloods.
It really depends on where you put the cutoff point. Is like what is a PoE player and what is like not yet a PoE player, right? Like if someone plays within 3 weeks to maps, then quits the game, I don't really consider that as much of a PoE player in the context of the average PoE player discussion. I mean, I don't want to diminish your feeling of playing PoE if you play that way. I'm not trying to offend my viewers.
Everyone who doesn't get to red maps, it's still not the 1%. It's still not even close to the 1%. The 1% absolutely. is using gilded or wing or polished scarabs.
Right, but like think about all the people, however big the community is, that was magic finding Crimson Temple to the nth degree. That's a tiny fraction of the community as well. I mean, a lot of people seem to get on board with it, but the actual number of people who are printing Magebloods by dropping multiple apothecaries every league is pretty dang small, is it not?
Yeah.
I'm one of them. actually. But the number of people who are doing that is just, I feel like, not so much running Crimson Temple. A lot of people running Crimson Temple, but the actual number of people who are getting like 10, 20, 30 apothecaries, 50 apothecaries a league. That's a pretty small number.
Very small.
Yeah, and when that card costs 70 divines, that's leaving a lot of people in the dust. So I think it's an interesting conversation we're having on that topic. I think there's a few different ways of look at it. But yeah, maybe that will be the most contentious topic moving into next league. What to make of the Valdo's box dilemma.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they could just not drop generally on the ground, but be gated behind some sort of thing. That would make it even more 1%y. No, I don't want to go deeper down the 1% rabbit hole.
This is all way less of a problem than everyone's thinking it is. Because, yeah, there are some problems like right now, but realistically, they had to pick a spot, they had to pick a rarity, they had to pick an amount that it would happen, and they only had the first batch of keys to put in. So, like, even a month from now, there's going to be so many more variety of those keys, which is going to water down the amount of those maps that are Mage Bloods or like good rewards. And then they've got a knob they can turn on the total rarity of the boxes and whatnot. Like you have to pick a number, throw it in, see what happens. Is it enough? Is it too much? In this case, I think everyone's going to say it's too much and too often, and they'll probably turn that knob down, and then they'll add more maps in, and I think it'll be fine. This is a very temporary problem.
That's probably right. Some commenter mentioned that actually a little bit ago, that it's probably going to receive the foiled Voidborn Reliquary Key treatment, where everybody's just going to throw in their random garbage uniques, and it's going to water it down so much that, I mean, I don't even get excited when I drop a Voidborn Reliquary Key. Do you guys? It's virtually guaranteed to be trash.
Yeah, it's like average return of 5C or something like that.
Right. So it almost feels like a reliquary key. I mean, reliquary key is not even worth a divine anymore. It was like 100 chaos or something. So, maybe my goal this league will be to take Voidborn Reliquary keys off my loot filter, to be farming at that level. So that'll be my highest.
Now that is the 1% right there.
A little less than 1%. Yeah, but not
a little bit more distinguished than just 1%.
Not the one.
What do you tell us?
You're hiding keys. Insane.
Yeah. Wait, who of you guys is excited for the Crip interview with Jonathan Rogers tonight? That's in a couple of hours from now, right? Like 1:30 a.m. my time. This is like 3 hours ago and 12 hours from now. So 9 hours from now on Crip's channel.
I am burnt out on PoE 2 hype. We're too far away for me to continue to get excited like every 3 weeks for PoE 2 stuff. I'm so hyped about PoE 1. I'd rather just kind of wait a little while for them to keep pumping this PoE 2 content, because this game is not coming out in 2024.
I'm there too. I actually literally don't care. I'm very looking forward to PoE 2 when it's time. I went to Exile Con. The PoE 2 stuff was great. We played the beta. It was fantastic. I'm very excited when PoE 2 comes out. But right now, man, I'm playing this game and it's so good. I don't have time for that nonsense. It's so far away. I'm busy.
Yeah,
I can multitask.
In my case, specifically talking about Criparian, I do keep up to date with him because he plays a lot of Ruthless, and I feel a little bad because with my kind of gameplay, and it is a mode of gameplay I would like to have played. I think if I wasn't a content creator, I actually would have played Ruthless, like kind of seriously at one point, because I did the Ruthless with Gold event, and I liked it quite a bit. It really restricted the amount of drops I got and made every drop that I did get that much more meaningful. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it didn't change a whole lot in terms of like the feeling of gameplay, but it was just different mode, and I did enjoy it. And I am looking forward to PoE 2, even though we're probably going to get slowed down a lot and less drops. So I will be jumping on that bandwagon when the time comes. As you guys said, I'm actually right in alignment with you guys. Generally, broadly speaking, I was memeing the hell out of the league reveal for Affliction League. I couldn't believe how much time they devoted to PoE 2. It was absolutely outrageous to me. And I was basically rolling my eyes at the end. Like, this is a great review. Thank you for showing us this, crossbow. I can't remember the name of the character. And really
Mercenary.
cool. All the different variety of skill gems, everything. Could we have gotten this video in a completely separate venue? A separate thing. So it could have sought it out and look for it on its own. I came here for the league reveal and for PoE 1 because I'm excited about PoE 1 that's literally next week. Why do I have to sit through 40 minutes and then a whole
20.
bunch more time in the Q&A about a game that's not coming out even in the next year? I love thinking about the game. I love contemplating it on its own time in its own place. I couldn't understand. It was just so jarring. Unbelievable. That's the word that comes to mind. So jarring the way it just took me out of the hype for the league. Because there was so much time that was devoted to it. So absolutely there with you guys on that. Yeah.
I find it so interesting that, I think your channel is the opposite of Ruthless gameplay. Whatever the opposite of Ruthless is, I think that's what your channel is. So I think that's really cool that you want to play Ruthless. I would love to see your approach to zero loot and how you would, I don't know, maybe magic find.
I'm going to reference Balor on this. He's talked about this before. The game is fun. What makes this game fun is not how fast you move and how much loot you get. It's the ceiling. It's wherever that ceiling is. And it's being able to move as fast as it allows you to move. Being able to get as much loot as it allows you to get. And trying to push the limits on whatever that limit is. I don't care what the limit is. We could be dropping 100 times less loot. I'd still be having a great time. Because whatever loot I'd be getting would be the most I could try and get at whatever that ceiling is. That's what floats my boat anyway. And
sounds bad that you're avoiding saying is it's not important how much I get. It's important that I get more than the person next to me.
Yeah.
You've said that too. Yeah. And I admit it. Yeah. It's a competitive approach. And I don't care about bossing. I don't care about racing. That's not the competitive side that I care about. I care about getting more loot than the person next to me. Absolutely. And I do enjoy showing people how to do it. I do enjoy like the showcasing and the teaching aspect of it and everything. But yeah, at the end of the day, I want to be one of the best at it. And that has nothing to do with content creation. That's just the way I prefer to play the game. The way I played the game years ago in ARPGs in the past.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's still from a content creation perspective. And also, if I wasn't a content creator, I find getting more info about PoE 2 extremely thrilling. If I have to disagree with you on that, then so be it. But I definitely would like some clarifications around the Mercenary reveal. Because,
that's what it was. Mercenary, yes.
Yeah, exactly. I tried to interject it when you said you didn't remember the exact name, but...
Hey, it's a bow build. I'm excited for bow builds. Are you kidding me?
Well, they did say at some point that there's never going to be guns in Path of Exile, and now for all intents and purposes, the Mercenary is essentially wielding guns.
Sounds. They even said it was gun sounds.
So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to get some details around like what is their thought process there, like why did they find that they didn't want to have guns in PoE just a couple of years ago, and now that we have that reveal, like I want to know what's going on there, what the design goals are, and yeah, I think there's going to be plenty of interesting stuff. And the fact that the game is so far away didn't bother me when they first revealed it at ExileCon. It didn't bother me with this ExileCon and when I went to Gamescom, and it probably will not bother me when I watch the interview tonight. But I do agree with you guys, and pretty much everyone I've talked to about that agrees that the PoE 2 content reveal should have been separate from the Affliction content reveal. Because like getting all the people hyped to show up for Affliction and to then like dedicate half of the time to a completely different topic that is, yeah, it's slightly related because it's the same game, it's a sequel, but
They could have given it 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes at the most. Wouldn't have bothered me. I actually went back and looked at the VOD to see my own reaction, to see at what point had I become fed up with this reveal, and why was I fed up? I was actually examining my own behavior in that, because I thought it was interesting. I had such a visceral reaction to it. I couldn't even fully understand why I felt that way, and so I went back through and watched the VOD, and it was around the 5 to 8 minute mark, somewhere in there. It began where I started to be like, okay, guys, what are you doing here? But anyway, this is kind of meta, but yeah.
No, that's completely fair. If they had done just a 3 to 5 minute segment, it'd be like, guys, look out for a new video coming out where we dedicate all the time and all our production efforts in the video to showing you guys new stuff about PoE 2. It would have been much easier to take. But, you know, since there's so much, like, unison around this topic, like everyone I've talked to says that they didn't enjoy how much time they dedicated to it. Maybe they'll do it separately next time. I mean, there's no shortage of interest in PoE 2. It's not like they have to shove it in there just so it gets some views, right? They just thought it would be appreciated by the community to have like a sort of mini ExileCon online, like a reveal festivity, if you will, where they bundle up a bunch of different reveals. And like, if people don't like
it wasn't so big a deal that they had to wheel cart Chris Wilson out onto a variety of podcasts, including yours, to do an apology tour for how bad the Awakening Gems were nerfed, or whatever it was that happened that one time.
Whatever happened to all those interviews that he was going to do?
I miss them.
I wouldn't mind an apology tour just to be able to.
Yeah, you know, in a masochist sense, I kind of wish they would just completely dog the game one league so that he could come out and do that, so we'd see his face a little more. But I don't know what happened to Chris Wilson. We don't see his face much anymore.
I suppose he's going to be phased out slowly out of the front facing role. Like, he's still doing it because
faded unconnections.
Well, I mean, we've done, like, the Ziggy D post-reveal Q&A has always been a one-on-one Ziggy with Chris in the last couple of leagues. And now this time they brought on Jonathan and Rory, right? And that does make sense because those guys are actually actively involved with the creation and design of the game. Like, the stuff that is being talked about. Well, Chris would just be there as a, meta role because everyone knows his face and his voice, but he has to do all the research to be able to answer the questions, and he needs like an entire team of people behind him. Sure, like Rory and Jonathan also have people catering to them so that they can be the best that they possibly can on a podcast or in an interview situation, but they are also like much more hands-on with the actual development of the game. How many times did I say actually in that paragraph?
Enough.
Well,
I don't know.
Well, basically, I'm just excited about this interview. If you guys are not, then that's fine. People in chat were probably just as unaware as you were, Snoo, that this thing is going to happen. So I just wanted to bring it up because between the time of this podcast releasing and the time of this interview, there's still a little bit of a cushion so that anyone who is interested has the chance to tune in if they missed it. Now, if you've missed any of this podcast, it is uploaded in full, of course, on my YouTube channel, as well as Spotify as a video version and on various other platforms as an audio version. I want to thank Snoobe and Arrow for coming on today to enlighten us with all the perspectives and all the insider knowledge, because I've certainly learned a lot on today's podcast, and I hope so have our viewers and listeners. If you have, then I'm sure those content creators would appreciate it if you seek out their respective channels and press the buttons to follow, like, subscribe, and all the goodness, just as much as I appreciate it if you do that for this podcast. And if you can't go out of your way to purchase a paid subscription, you can always listen to podcasts 2 or 3 or 4 times on YouTube without an ad blocker. That's very appreciated. Just let it run in the background. Make it a celebration of podcasting culture, and enjoy the coziness of our voices running in the background as you drop countless divines employing
like we said earlier,
strats.
Great to have it on the background when you're in the zone. Great to have it there. Yeah, I do it all the time. Not gonna seriously.
Yeah, good shit. Yeah, yeah, any closing remarks? Any sort of?
Thank you for having me again. This is always a lot of fun. I love chatting with chatting PoE with you guys, and Snoot, it was great to finally meet you. So thanks for having me.
Thanks for the interesting topics, and especially I think we discussed a few interesting topics on this one. Had a few different points of view, or at least presented a few different points of view. So hopefully it was an interesting podcast for everybody to listen to. I had fun with it here, and I'm in absolutely high spirit, not because of the season actually, but just because this incredible league is absolutely dedicated to me and to Arrow, evidently in a totally different way, but and to BalorMage, who really loves Ultimatum, absolutely dedicated to him too.
R.I.P.
But yeah, that's all I got. Thanks for having me. It's been a lot of fun.
Right. Are you going to continue your stream after this, Snu? Then
I will not. It's 12:30 a.m. right now. So
1:30 for me.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure before I, send you all the viewers, and then you're just.
You try Arrow. Maybe he's gonna stick around.
Yeah, I'm gonna go live right
you
after.
said 8 a.m. Okay, yeah, well, but if I end the stream, I need to.
He's the lucky guy.
Can you start the stream right now while we're still on the show, so I can raid?
I can.
Yeah.
Oh man,
because
lights
I
off.
have the technology.
Lights back on.
Yeah, that's good, because then I'll do that.
Just need to transfigure this stream over to the other one.
All right. Well, here we go. Starting the stream.
Pressed the wrong button and showed you my end screen. Oh wait, that's the wrong. Again, second.
Oh, there he is. The magician's build. Oh, thanks. No.
Right. Okay, so you're live, Arrow?
I am live. Yeah.
Perfect. And I'm pressing the button. It's AER0___, right?
Yes.
Okay, I got it.
If I had
about
a
your
nickel
famous
for every time
outro?
someone misrated me, I would rated the Arrow with no underscores. I'd have a bunch of nickels.
I'll throw the outro up on screen right now, definitely.
Yep.
Good. Well, thanks again for being there. It was great to talk to you. We're probably not going to see each other before the new year, so have a glorious 2024 and transition to that. And I hope
you
that
on the other
PoE,
side.
Yeah, definitely. Continue this upwards trend, and I'll see you for the next one. Bye, guys. This is the thing that I press now.
I know a lot of people want to send blankets or water. Just send your cash.